This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, because there's 3 sets of tire locks, which is really strange, right? So they must have been sideways at some point. Going through there, I mean, there's probably about maybe 50 feet of tire locks, and at one point there's 3 tires. Which,
It came to rest at like Marker Mill, on the fence at Marker Village.
yeah,
Took out the
wow.
lion sign.
Lion sign and the Tree City sign.
Oh,
But the wood's way down past there, heading south.
But it's been, oh, that's been several weeks.
Yeah.
I think Todd did something.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
said the lion sign was down. For so long, they just.
I think theirs was lower on the Tree City. I think theirs had like an
Was there a Green River sign there?
There was a Green River on there. There were 4 signs on that. I walked down there all the time. I walked down to the town line all the time.
Oh, God.
It's
It's not enforced, right? Like,
You know what?
it just, you can't not go door to door knocking.
yeah, it was actually like, it was challenged in court and they found it to be. That you can actually hold it. So I was up, when I was, I don't know where we have that.
So we don't.
Into church.
Maybe somebody
gets.
We're putting it.
I don't know, we don't have well, that's, we still had, when we updated the business license, what was it? Oh, it's supposed to check. What was the term for like a door-to-door salesman? It was still in there. Hucksters, we had hucksters and other. Well,
There was another good one, huh?
there was some really good. I know, so we'll just start the meeting with roll call of council.
Here.
Aye.
Neverland. Hi. Marty. Marty's absent this evening. And
I talked to him earlier today and
Maybe he'll be coming in hot.
yeah, I assumed he was gonna be here.
He always tells me when he's going to be
Yeah.
not.
all right. Y'all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, on to public comment on agenda items. Second call for public comment on agenda. Last call for public comment on agenda. Public comment on non-agenda items.
I had asked this in an email, but I didn't get an answer. I have seen Facebook posts for the Mercantile Lodge over the Mercantile on Main Street. It's being advertised as public lodge for overnight stays. Has that been addressed in our code?
So it's kind of yes, no. I have a full report from Susie that I thought I forwarded to you, but I did not. Because it was in a discussion format of commission.
Yeah, and when
So
I
we can
mentioned,
do it.
when I replied back to you, and then Corey replied, and then,
Then we were starting to have a
Yeah.
rolling
So then
meeting.
we
so I was
just
like,
stopped.
ah.
So I don't know anything since then. But I did mention it to John. I don't know if he remembers it or
Yeah.
not, but he didn't really
Yeah.
know anything. But
We're just trying to make sure we didn't violate the.
yeah, my biggest concern was the the weight bearingness on, like, say, that big slab up there and stuff like that. I mean, surely you're hoping that someone is doing it correctly, but if you don't know it's going in there or going to be used for that purpose, then I don't know how the town proceeds with checking on that.
It's been mentioned at the commission meetings more than once by me that we want to revisit the code and make sure that we can put some, not only safety requirements in the code when people are doing projects like that, but the other thing is that we should consider that people need to actually acquire a bond when they're doing projects like that. So they acquire the bond, and if there's no situations, they receive their money back. But the bond is there to protect the public and protect anyone that may be hurt in the process of construction.
I agree with you.
I was more concerned with the zoning. We're gonna have hotels now on Main Street?
Well, I looked at it, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't see it being a hotel per se, as more of like an Airbnb or something, but there is already a couple of owners that use their property as their own, but that's a whole different thing. So
Most of the.
I'm like you, I don't know, because there is down on Main Street, there is other property that's
It's not,
for
There's
rent,
owner-occupied.
commercial. Well, and
Yeah.
there's commercial rentals down there.
Well, commercial rental is different than an Airbnb. An
Yeah.
Airbnb, you run the risk of having, and Airbnb is well known for it. The party kids come out and, and they have a party and you're right there between two major bars. And my concern is, that they start the party at the bar and the party ends up upstairs and then you got people falling off of roofs, basically, onto Main Street. That's my concern. I just don't think it's a good idea to start that kind of a precedent on Main Street.
Yeah.
The bars are just too close. It's just too convenient. I just have a problem with it. I don't think it's not in line with what is everybody else. We required, we beat Josie up about the place that she put in on Chowning Street, where it has to be employee only.
Right.
You can't rent it out, but then we're going to let her rent it out over her store to the public.
Does the building next to the library have apartments upstairs?
So
It is apartment building.
it is, so if it's zoned core commercial residential, then, which is all of downtown, right? Core commercial
Sure.
residential,
Right.
then it's allowed in that section as a housing unit, right?
Does the planning board have any
So,
codes that they're working on to stop this kind of behavior?
we are,
Okay.
but we need to work with the commission on the final code. So the commission will basically build the code
Mhm.
and then we'll present it to the commission. But
Okay.
we have requested just to have a meeting with the commission to make sure that we're on the right path. We don't want to turn around and put a lot of effort into something and then have people say, hey, who gave you this charge to do this? No, we don't support it.
Well, I believe apartment houses are completely different than an Airbnb. An Airbnb, in my mind, is the same thing as a hotel.
wasn't this a whole debate at state this year? On
Well,
definition on whether or
Right
not
now, there
it was.
has been with the government, with the governor's thing in G40 as far as what they're determining to be your personal residence and what you do for your Airbnbs, VROBs, bookings.com, all of those things. There's also some regulations as far as noise.
Mhm.
There's a little device almost like a smoke alarm you can put in there and it'll let the owner know if it exceeds a certain, decibel sound. And so there's a lot of things that can be done right now. Airbnb's kind of got a
Well, I know in the
hard
tax
wrap.
code, you can
Yeah.
Airbnb your house. And if you Airbnb it for more than 2 weeks out of the year, you have to declare the income, but you could
Yeah.
it's still your personal residence.
Yeah.
I don't see that as being her personal residence. She has a personal residence on one of the streets.
Yeah, I see it as a
there.
completely different thing too. I
I'm
do.
seeing it as a hotel. And as a hotel, I think you have to, first of all, where are these people going to park? They're going to park on Main Street, guaranteed. because the door faces Main Street. You know, and in back, all that parking behind there is for the owners of those businesses to have their employees park back there. So I don't think it's going to be taken very well if they have Airbnb people start to park
They
back
probably
there.
won't, because Mr. Thurston, that was an issue that they just went
Yep.
through, you know, so.
Well,
It
the only
needs to be
reason
fair
I
for
know a
one,
lot of
fair for
this is
everybody,
because
yeah.
my husband used to work for the Long Branch, and I know that there was always issues with people parking back there.
Yeah.
And the owners get ticked off. Yeah. Yeah. So the parking back there is very minimal. There's not enough parking, you know, and an Airbnb too. It needs to be in a more residential area, not commercial core residential. I don't agree with that. I honestly don't. I see a liability heading our way. But that's just my personal opinion. So I just wanted to bring it up. I keep seeing it pop up on Facebook, and I'm just like, we're going to start this precedent. We're going to have Airbnbs over all the bars in town, over all the businesses in town.
If you do it for one, you do it for everybody. So you either
I
have to
know.
come up with
Well,
something
and
and.
that's what the problem is.
That's the problem.
Once a precedent is set, then the precedent is there, right?
I
I
agree with
mean,
you
this
because-
person will have to be grandfathered in, regardless of what we do now, if we allow it.
Yeah.
So,
And there's already been changes to the other building down here, you know, where originally it was going to be just employees only, and it is, but I mean, as far as the occupants of it and,
Mhm.
you know, people moving out and changing in, and we can't predict that ahead of time. But it would be nice to know what's going on, you know,
Yeah.
and say if there is a change, maybe you need to come back and address
Well,
that or something.
This goes back to why you need to have an airtight code, because John and I had this discussion a few weeks ago. When you try to put conditions on any type of a special permit, then what happens is that who's going to enforce it? You need to have it so that it's in the code, and that only under extreme circumstances can there ever be a condition issued. So you prevent this whole condition issue of actually existing. You make sure that your code is restrictive enough and fair enough that it addresses everything that could come up in a hearing. And then you don't need to have these discussions, because now you've actually prevented it from happening.
well,
lot of
the
houses
next
are-
thing is too, we're asking the owners to police themselves. How do we know those are employees that are living in that building? I mean, we don't. We're
Well, that's like, I
relying
didn't know
on
anything
the,
was even going on with it until I saw your post, and then I went and looked, and I was like, the lodge, you know, and then my concerns was structural, of
Mhm.
course, you know, and then you thought of, you know, accidents, and we don't have a planning and zoning, you know, office here like a lot of towns do, and where you've got an inspector that's going in and checking on it. We really need that,
Yeah.
because we are growing, but at this time we don't have it.
And thus a Board of Health, right? It's
Yeah.
typical that a Board of Health would enforce a lot of these things that we're
Mhm.
talking about. The Board of Health would be checking the decibels, like you said, right? They would be checking for health conditions. They would be
Actually, they do
checking-
not check for the decibels.
What's that?
They don't check for the decibels. The health
The Board of
department
Health,
doesn't.
the Board of
They
Health
do?
that I operated did, yes.
Oh,
Well,
that's
they,
not
I was going to say, they don't hear.
Not for the sanitation office here.
Has she applied and gotten a vacation rental license?
Brenda would know that.
for the Mercantile?
Yeah,
For the Mercantile Lodge, yeah.
she had, yes.
Correct, yes.
For
And,
both.
and are those just rubber stamped
Wait,
approved?
The one at above the store, or the one over on
Chowning.
Chowning?
Chowning is supposed to be employee-only housing, not an Airbnb.
This is above the actual mercantile, you know, up top where
Yeah,
the,
it would have been that one
Where's the
above
Chowning?
on Main,
on Main
not
Street, okay.
Chowning.
Yeah.
Correct.
And those are just rubber stamped VRBOs right now, applications.
Basically, I did that, and I did it with Brenda, so I can tell you what my experience was with it. I actually filled out an application for here in the town to let them know about that. I signed up with the state, the Department of Revenue, made sure that all my taxes and stuff were going to be being, you know, the money was going to be taken, because I go through a booking system that does like VRBO, Airbnb,
And you pay
various-
taxes, yeah.
and they handle all of that, and they pay my taxes in and
Yeah.
stuff. Then I went through the sanitarian's office and had inspections done, and then had everything from the state issued too, and brought in, and copies of it give to Brenna. So she has a file on all of my stuff like that. So that's what we should have for everybody that has an Airbnb. I think that's kind of what she was working on.
And that's as far as all of the state laws that we can enforce. That's as far as we can go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Until they change something.
We know that a health inspection.
Yeah,
is done.
and as a town, you can, I remember when I spoke to y'all the first time in December, I think it was December the 12th, I remember Corey asking me a question, and we talked about, how can you control the growth, or how can you do this? And that may be something that the city has to look at, is if they begin to get too many Airbnbs in the actual city limits, that could hurt other businesses even too, or, might cause a problem for whatever reason those things are. There may be I know moratorium was put on one over in VC, where you can only have a certain percentage within the town, those kind of things.
Well, I mean, we talk about employee housing being one of the most important issues that we have in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
Water, sewer, and employee housing.
Yep.
And then we're allowing what is good potential employee housing to be used for something otherwise than
Yeah.
what we would.
It's never going to convert.
Mm-mm.
The people that VRBO here use your place for 2 weeks a year and want to make some money on it the rest of the year. It's never going to convert to employee housing.
No.
It's never.
But does the town really know how many
No, there's
Airbnb?
3 on my
Yes,
street.
they all have a
Right.
That-
they all have a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't.
But
They
that's what they're
don't.
trying to,
Yeah,
trying
they
to do. Brenda is trying to do that. She's been going through and looking at all of them online, seeing like where these listed, and getting in touch for, I believe it, I'm speaking for her, but is that correct, Brenda? You've been reaching out to the individuals and.
Yes, and I do stand corrected. So she doesn't have a short-term rental, like the Airbnb license. I thought we were talking about just business license. She only has just a business license as of now. I stand corrected. And then I think we have right now, the last time I checked, I think I have 10 registered Airbnbs.
Yeah, there's
Exactly.
50 of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
I mean,
have
there's
been
3 on
trying
my
very
street.
hard
I've got
to,
two
yes.
down here,
Yes.
so,
It is
yeah,
a
there's one
problem
on
getting
mine.
hold of people for that,
Well,
for
if you
sure.
got 3 and I got 2, then that takes 5 out of them right there, so.
There's only 6 houses on my street.
Yeah.
1 out of 6 is an Airbnb.
So, I mean, I think the first step would be is to send her and make sure she's licensed with the
Registered.
framework that we have in place currently.
Well, before we do that,
Well, and then it's an interesting tricky, because what do you define an Airbnb as, right? Is it residential or is it a business? And in that area, currently, right, it's business and residential. So either way, they fall into the,
well, the state treats it as a bed,
Mhm.
just like it treats a hotel. It treats it as a bed.
And mine are basically, I get some people for a week, I get some people for 2 weeks. I'll have contractors that are working from buildings or something, but I get a lot of one night people.
Mm-hmm.
I really do get a lot of one night people that just come in for that one night and stay. It depends. Like John Fossil, he had to come back here and speak for a funeral, and so he's just a one nighter, and so I get a lot of people like that. My place, when I started it, just to give a little background, I bought it to live in it, and then it had these extra settings, but I knew that it may be one day that it would not be able to be a short-term rental. It may be that I'd have to turn it into an actual commercial building, and I may have to move to another place, and that might have to become a hotel or something of that effect. Because I would have loved to have done it for employee housing, but I used that income to start another business, and so financially it just wasn't what I could actually do at the time, but I would love to have done it. My concern with the things that's being done is that none of us knew that there was any remodeling going on up top in that building for that
Oh, I
reason.
knew. I saw the crane.
But did you
Oh,
know
yeah,
what it was
they're gonna-
for?
but it doesn't matter in the code for commercial residential district, which is what is in allowed purposes, right? As it stands in our book, bed and breakfast, boarding and lodging houses, Like, it's so close
Yeah.
to those.
Exactly. That's why I said the
Yeah.
only thing we can do is make sure she has the vacation rental
Properly
license.
licensed, yeah.
It is as a right.
So right now, she has full right to do it. We just need to make sure, like you said, that the standard city code
Well,
is
in our
filled out.
code, we can limit how many in a certain geographic area, right?
We can.
But you're gonna have to know how many you already have.
Yeah.
Correct.
40.
Along Main Street is what I'm concerned about.
Over 40. Hankins did an immense amount of research and she pulled over 40.
Yeah.
It was, I think, her
And
last
you can't
count was
just
46.
say
Yeah,
for Main Street,
I
it
would
has to be
think.
for the whole town.
No, you can specify a geographic area. Yeah.
I would think 50 is the number.
That was her last count was right at 46. So
I mean, I see it a lot.
Yeah, I would think 50
Way more
is
than 50.
the right number, but that's
Right,
an educated guess.
but then there was the whole like, can you actually require them to have a business license? Because it was the last session before this one,
Yeah.
where they said if the state issues your license
Yep.
for a reason,
If
then
they
you
have
can't do another.
A state issued property
Then the
management
towns
license, you don't have to, technically, I mean, I would fight that one to have the city business license there.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just did everything to cooperate and to do everything the way I should on it, but everybody's not going to do that. And I'm not wanting to police anybody either, but I do see what you're saying.
But the point of putting in codes is that they're enforceable. And the
Yeah,
only way that you can enforce them is to police them. And I mean, so like us putting a condition on that Channing property that only employees live there, that was my first inkling, was that we're not going to be able to police that. We're taking her word for it that she's going to do it.
yeah.
There's a lot of that happens here. I mean, for instance, this is for, the biggest thing I've heard for building is this is for, what do you want to call it?
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing. That's the biggest bullshit I've heard
Language.
anybody on side. But you hear it a lot because they throw it out there and there's no follow-up. And then, now he does have 3 apartments in there, we know this. There's no follow-up,
And who's
Well,
going
and
to
it's
enforce it?
hard to enforce.
Yes.
Well,
because-
it's the enforceability. of it.
Well,
That's the
and-
biggest
We have this
question.
discussion all the
If,
time.
if it's against town code, then we can enforce it. If it's not, then we can't.
Well, who
Right, it's
currently
kind of a
enforces town
mute
code?
point because there's so many loopholes in that.
Yeah.
Like, we could try to enforce some of it, but at the end of the day, it is
How hard
so
is it to
out
change
of
that?
date
Yeah.
that, the previous council did a ton of work on one. They had Great West drop a whole draft. It's
They
sitting
did.
on the table. They came into meetings and then they got down to the like almost physical altercation with people in the room, cornering a planning with the county planner. And so they're like, okay, it's now time to back off and breathe, because if it's getting to, we're so heated. So they backed off of it, but there's been a whole draft to redo that because it's been recognized for
Oh, wow.
the better part of 8 years
Well,
that it's
I mean, we
ugly.
keep referring to the town
Yeah.
code. The town code can't be changed.
We can change it to what
It's
we
a
want.
process,
Right.
but it can be
Of
changed.
course.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try to do similar to what Corey did with just seeing the interest in the resort. Maybe we should just do some type of little take Nikki's information that she had, look at what Brenda's got, maybe 1 or 2 of us work with that and see if we come up with some ideas.
There's
Pick up
a
the draft
very
that was started.
strategic step process
Yeah.
for updating zoning. We are in stage 1 of that, which is the growth policy.
Yeah.
Then you see what the priorities are for the town. Then you can accommodate the zoning as that is your base document that is driving the reasons for why. It's almost your findings of facts for the public hearings and changing part of the zoning. So I think I think it's going immensely well,
That's
the
good.
growth policy
I think that
part.
sounds good.
But we need the last bit of input and then that
Our
goes
meeting's
through
in
and
2
then you
weeks.
can get
May 7th.
Then you have your why or
to
your-
why
Yeah.
that's so ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
What
so
are our
everyone knows, I
priorities?
mean, the growth policy committee, not to get too far off track, but we're meeting every 2 weeks. And Great West is extremely engaged, and we have a meeting coming up with the business community at the library on May 7th. And, we're just proceeding from there. We have the survey out, and hopefully everyone's going to take the time to go through the survey. But I think that when we're through, we're going to have a blueprint. I think to what the mayor is saying, that now we can actually begin to work on the code, and we'll actually have a blueprint to be able to build that code from, right?
Okay, one
That's
step
really
at a
what it comes
time.
down to.
That's,
Well, with business license first.
okay.
We had a great meeting the other night with Great West about the water and sewer. I mean, it's amazing until you understand everything that's happened over the years, until you understand where we're at, and things that people have tried to do and have failed to do, and you're just trying to keep the system working. I mean, it's an amazing wealth of knowledge that you actually get when you actually sit and listen to the engineers and Eric and other people, to just be able to share the information about the entire system. So.
Good to know.
All right, we'll move on to, oh, that was second call? Second call for public
Yeah.
comment on non-agenda. Do some follow-up on at least licensing in our midterm. Okay, last call for public comment on non-agenda. Okay, recruitment and retention. So Lucas is here, so as well. So he could give us kind of his feedback for some of the challenges that he's had while trying to transition into town. So we want to start with letting Lucas not have to be here all night?
Sure.
Sure. Lucas and Eric. Lucas, are you there? Can you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I guess that's the best first question is for recruiting and retaining new employees. What were the biggest challenges for you here in Ennis?
Well, first of all, I just want to start off. I just want to, express to you and the board and Eric, everybody there at Town Hall, that I appreciate the opportunity that you guys gave me to come here and work. And like I told Eric before, and you Nikki, it's not so much that I'm disgruntled or unhappy or anything like that. It's just my wife has come into a very good job opportunity, career opportunity, and it's just one of those chances for us to follow that and get a little closer to where our kids are at, and we've got some things going on back on the home front that kind of require our attention. So, but with that being said, I would say the biggest challenge for us was just the high cost of living out here. I know it's been said, and I'm sure you guys are aware that it's pretty expensive here in town, from the groceries to housing, and when we moved out, we kind of got we came from Colorado, where it's cost of living is high, and housing is high out there as well. The difference between here and Colorado is that the wages kind of match the cost of living. So we kind of, when we moved out here, and this is kind of totally on us, that we didn't really do our research to. We kind of fell into the Zillow trap of, oh, well, that house looks nice and it's affordable, but it's kind of, I feel like Zillow and these other online real estate companies kind of, I don't want to say trick you, but they definitely show you the best side of everything to kind of lure you into a place. And then when we got out here, it was like, oh, it's not really any cheaper than it is in Colorado, and the wages don't really match to be able to support that, so that was, you know, kind of the biggest thing that we struggled with was, you know, my wife, her background is, she's a CPA, and she did get some work, but it was, you know, kind of part-time work at the dollar store. So it was contributing, but it was just, you know, of course, the dollar store, they, you know, they won't hire anybody full time because they don't want to pay full-time benefits. So it's just kind of, so anyways, that was just kind of the, you know, the overall synopsis is, it's just pretty pricey to live here. And we looked around, there was a couple of houses that, had came up on Armitage. You guys may be familiar with them. They're basically right across the street, from each other, two houses that, you know, when I looked at them, I was like, oh, that looks like a, you know, fairly decent house and something that I would, on the outside looking in, think would be fairly affordable, at least for our range. And, you know, I'd go to, inquire about it, and, you know, they're five and $600,000. So it's, maybe I'm just being naive, and maybe the $500,000 is the new, you know, 350,000. Maybe it'll never get to what I consider affordable housing. But, so yeah, that was just kind of disheartening. And then, you know, we looked around for some rentals, and, even the rentals that we did find were pretty pricey. $2,000 a month, or, you know, 1,800 a month, which is probably not too terrible for a rental. But, where we were staying in the fifth wheel was $1,000 a month. So that's kind of, what we were stuck with. But yeah, I think it's just, and it's not just Ennis. I think it's all over. I think it's just affordable housing, and, you know, groceries and things of that nature that just, you know, it just, kind of pinches you and squeezes you every bit you have, you know. So
Was there anything we could have done differently as far as wages go, that could have made it so that in the long term it became more affordable? Or is it?
yeah, I mean,
I
I
know.
think,
Go
I
ahead. I'm
think
sorry.
the wages, you know, like I said, I was kind of, and I understand it's comparing apples and oranges, but, you know, somebody, you know, and not to toot my own horn by any means, but, I've been in out, Eric's spot, before. I was a, public works director for a small town back in Colorado for almost 10 years. And so I do understand the struggles of small towns trying to, make compatible wages and keep people, and you know, I kind of always, you know, I had a saying of, you know, you have a filet mignon appetite on a McDonald's budget, you know, and that's the way small towns go, is they still have all the problems, and they have all the dreams and aspirations that big towns do and big cities do, but they have a disadvantage that they just don't have the fund to do it. You know, we were always going for grants and loans and things like that. Um, and what makes it tough here too, is that there's no sales tax revenue. So the town that I was from, that, we ran, you know, we had at least had a little bit of sales tax. We didn't have the businesses like you guys. You have a lot more businesses than the town that I was from. Um, but yeah, I think just kind of, you know, in Colorado, you know, I was in the water and the wastewater industry, and so I had built up quite a bit of, licenses there. And then I moved out here, and, was able to, what do they call it, with the process of reciprocity, get my licenses from Colorado, kind of switched to Montana water and wastewater licenses. And, you know, like I told Eric, like I feel like, and this is just my opinion, I feel like Eric should be making quite a bit more than what, I don't know what he makes, but I can say it's not enough. And I think people with experience and that have experience like I did and licenses to kind of back that, you know, it's hard to find in my experience. It's extremely hard to find, you know, experienced individuals, whether they have a license or they don't, but just somebody that has the experience, to you know, because the people that do have experience, they're probably already working at a job that they've been working at for 10 plus years, and to get them to pull away from that job, you know, you have to kind of sweeten the pot, you know. So and it's not just about money. I think it's about just kind of a culture of appreciation. And I'm not saying that I didn't feel appreciated by any means, but I think that's kind of what you run into is you either get two scenarios where if you want somebody that's experienced to quit the job that they're at, you have to, you know, you have to be kind of say, well, you know, this is how we're going to sweeten the pot for you. Or you have the scenario where you get somebody that has no experience and you have to kind of train them from the ground up. But then you do that and you kind of worry, you know, I know Eric has mentioned to me numerous times, and, you know, I'm guilty as this just as much as the next guy. And I do appreciate that, the fact that when I moved here, that the town did provide and pay for the reciprocity process, you know, which was, you know, probably $400 or $500. I don't exactly know what that cost for me to get my licenses changed over. But Eric, you know, I understand where Eric's coming from is, okay, well, I bring a guy in and I train him and I get him a license and then he leaves, you know. And so it's kind of like you put your, you know, all your eggs in one basket, and then the guy just ends up leaving for a better opportunity, you know. So I would say, you know, I do think the wages are a little on the lower side. I'm not saying that they're super low, but, you know, if you look at, and again, this is comparing apples and oranges, but if you look at towns like Bozeman and some of these other towns, and I understand that they're bigger cities and they have more revenue and that sort of thing, but you know, if you just kind of just on a ballpark gauge off of that, like, you know, I know Bozeman they were, when I was looking for this job, you know, I could have got a job with the city of Bozeman, with my licenses and experience. I could have made, you know, $30 to $32 an hour. And like I said, I know that's Bozeman and it's a city, but it's, the thing is with water and wastewater operators, you know, they're not just, those tests are at least, you know, the ones I took in Colorado, they're not easy to obtain. So when you do get those licenses, that's why, especially the higher licenses, that's why a lot of these cities are, and towns, you know, pay for the higher licenses. You know, they realize that not everybody out there they don't just give these licenses away. And so I think it's just, you know, like I said, and you know, I struggle. A lot of this struggles that Eric has, I could relate to him. When I, you know, if funny story, how I, not to diverge too much, but how I became to work here was I just called the town. You know, it was kind of one of those things where, you know, I was looking on a map and I was like, oh, well, that town right there looks pretty cool. Like that's about the area where, you know, we kind of wanted to be, Southwest Montana. And I was like, what about this Ennis town? And so I, you know, got on the line and looked at your guys' website and I was like, oh, that looks like a neat town. But I didn't see that I was looking on Montana Rural Water and some of these other organizations and you guys weren't hiring. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just call up and see if they are looking for help. And I talked to Eric and he's like, yeah, I need help, man. Like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'm, you know, looking to move out there you know, he told me what he could, you know, pay me an hour, which was the max that at the time was allowable, which was $24 an hour, with my experience. And I thought, you know, in the back of my mind, I was like, well, it's a little lower than what I'm used to making and a little lower than what I could make at another place. But I thought, you know, with, like I said, I thought that the cost of living was going to be cheaper, you know. So I was like, well, I know it's lower wage than what I'm used to, but the cost of living's got to, you know, I assume that it would match that. And so when we moved out here and first trip to the grocery store, it was like, oh, well, these are actually higher than what they are in Colorado. So I think that's just kind of, you know, and I don't know what the answer is, you know, as far as, you know, I understand the small towns and especially you guys do have budget challenges. And I know you guys had some struggles with budget and things like this. And so I don't know what the answer is to be able to kind of get wages a little more competitive. You know, I don't know if I was talking to Eric briefly about it towards the end of the day today. And, you know, where I came from, the town hadn't raised their water and sewer rates it was 10 plus years, you know. And so then we had a significant amount of aging infrastructure that, you know, was starting to fail and needed some upgrades to the water treatment plant and so on and so forth. And so we ended up having to raise the rates, basically double the rates, because, you know, the town for the longest time hadn't raised their rates to kind of match with the inflation process. And, you know, like I was telling Eric, you know, if you go out and buy a water pump, 20 years ago, that was $1,000. That very same pump is $2,000 or $3,000 today. And that's just inflation. That's how it works. And if you're not, I don't know, you guys may be raising the rates on an incremental basis. That may be the case, but I don't, you know, the idea is that if you raise it a little bit on a small percentage over time, over 5 or 10 years or 7 years, that you don't have to, you know, the citizens are they're gonna show opposition to a rate increase no matter what it is, whether it's a 1% or a 50% increase. There's going to be opposition. That's just the nature of the beast. But it's a lot easier pill to swallow if you do it in a smaller increment rather than saying, oh, well, we haven't raised rates for the last 10 years and everybody was really happy, but now we've come to a head where we have to do something, or infrastructure is going to fail, or, you know, what have you, you know. So, yeah, that's kind of, you know, just my, you know, and I feel for Eric. You know, it felt bad for leaving him in a high and dry spot, because I've definitely been in his shoes before, where it was just me flying solo, trying to do everything, you know, not being able to take weekends or vacation. I mean, and it does suck. And that's why I think someone in Eric's position, for the amount of work that he does and the amount of responsibility that he carries on his shoulder, I feel like he should be at a little more higher wage. And that's just coming from a perspective of being in his situation before.
Maybe just a quick statement. First of all, I want to thank you. I was excited to know that you were going to be available to talk to us. And to me, I almost consider it to be like an exit interview.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm sure that when Eric first met you, he must have thought that he hit the lottery. I mean, you're a very talented person by everything that I'm hearing and everything that I've heard in the past. I guess what I would ask from you is that when you were actually serving as a director back in Colorado, was there anything that you actually were able to use as opportunities to reward people? Were there specific stipends that maybe that you offered for particular types of licenses, heavy equipment, ability to operate certain types of vehicles? Is there anything that you actually found that was creative that would be opportunities for us to actually look at and consider?
Yeah. We actually did. We started, when I did have to train individuals that came in with no experience, they had it set up. The town set it up for every license that you obtained. The town would increase your would give you a 5% raise. And you could, so in Colorado, it's a little different structure in Colorado for their water and wastewater licenses. There's a lot more licenses that you can get in Colorado. So in Colorado, to just give a quick breakdown of how their structure is you have water treatment and water distribution, wastewater treatment and wastewater collection. So the water treatment just deals with the aspects of actual treating the water, and you could get it went from level 1, which was the very lowest, to level 4. And the water distribution was the same way. They went from level D, which was the low end, to a level A, which was the high end, and it was the same structure for the wastewater. So essentially, if you were to get all your licenses, you would have 16, what was that, 16 chances, 5% chances. The caveat is that as you got in, so what typically would happen would be the entry level licenses, the guys that would come in and say they had, you had to have been, I think in Colorado they have a standard that you have to work at a place for I believe it's 6 months before you can take your entry level license. But usually the entry levels are kind of just a lot of common sense, safety stuff. And so usually you'd get a guy in and within like 6 months, he was seeing at least a 5% increase, and so that kind of made him happy. It was helping the town out because he's actually getting his licenses. But like I said, there's benefits and there's drawbacks of that structure and that scenario. You can kind of plateau, and it's really puts a lot on the town that I worked for. We encouraged and paid for any of the training, which I know you guys do as well. Any of the training, the cost of the licenses, so on and so forth. But it was up to the individual employee to study and to work hard to obtain those licenses. So if you had a motivated individual that was really motivated, they could, in theory, study their butts off and work up height. Now the town didn't, the way it's structured is it kind of lets you step up at a set pace. So the higher licenses you can't take until you have 2 or 3 years of experience under your belt, because you really need that in order to even have a chance to get those licenses. So the towns, and it wasn't like that always, they just recently changed that a couple of years ago in Colorado. But what the town did, because you would have guys that would come in there and they would get their first 4 entry-level licenses, and right off the back it's 20%. Well, that's a significant kick up. So what they did was they said, okay, we're going to give you a 5% raise for every license you obtain, but you can only get 2 licenses per year. So that capped it off at saying you can only get 10% salary increase per year, but it seemed, it's still, the conundrum is always like, okay, so you spend the money and they get their percentage raises, but how do you keep them, and I think that I've thought about that a lot, and I think it boils down to is just a culture of appreciation. We would, it wasn't something that we did all the time, but the mayor every once in a while would gather up the small crew that I did have, whether it was 1 or 2 or 3 guys, and he'd just take us out to lunch, and I don't know if that was on his own dime or if it was on the town's dime. But the point of it was that he just, little things like that kind of go a long way, just to show them that they're appreciated, regardless of, and, it's kind of a two-way street in my opinion is, if and don't, and like I said, don't take this in the wrong way. Like, I'm not insinuating that I felt like I was underappreciated, because that's not what I'm trying to say at all. I'm just saying in general, I think if you have a workforce or set of employees, if you're showing interest in them and showing appreciation, I think it's a double-edged sword. They're in turn like are willing to go the extra mile and put in the extra time and kind of go above and beyond, because they're like, hey, I'm working for a good place and I want to make them proud. I want to they treated me right, so I'm going to treat them right, kind of the golden rule thing, and so I think that's like I said, it was just in the small government and especially small town, it was a challenge for me, and I know it's a challenge for Eric to try to find and keep good help, and that's as a public works director, I was making more money towards the end of my tenure, and I would, like Christmas time and stuff, and I would just, even if it was just $20 in scratch tickets, or buying the guys coffee or something in the morning, like it seemed to me like that really helped, just kind of, for one, it kind of breaks up the doldrums of the work day, and just kind of lightens up the attitude or the mood, I guess. And it just, you know, that to me, that was something that I started doing personally, just to kind of, you know, just to let them know that, hey, I know you guys are working hard, and here's just a little something to just show that I appreciate you, you know. And like I said, I'm not saying that I didn't feel appreciated here at all. That's not what I'm getting at. I just, you know, because I've been on the other side of the coin where it's like, God, we just can't find people. You know, I was literally just going through just hiring people just to have a warm body there, just to, you know, hold the other end of the tape. It seems like in our industry, it's like you need a minimum of two, like, because there's not a lot that you can do with one guy, like solo, you know. And so it's, I've been on that coin on that other side where it's just, you know, and it's no fun, you know. And so that's, you know, and I can see where Eric's frustrated, you know. I absolutely get that. And it's just, it's kind of the other part of the puzzle that a lot of people don't realize, you know. I told Eric, I said, you know, a lot of times, at least with the board that I used to work with, you know, they were really excited about all the new and upcoming projects, and they were going to put in a splash park, and, you know, I called it all the fun stuff and the tree planting days. But, you know, it's all kind of for naught if you can't have, and you don't have a good core of employees and public servants to be able to carry these dreams and projects out, you know. And a lot of times, at least in my you know, dealings in history, it's they didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to, you know, address that question of how do we get and keep more you know, better employees, you know. So it's one of those things where I absolutely would not want to be in your guys' shoes. I'm trying to figure out how to make it run, and dealing with the citizens, and everybody has their own different concerns, and then on top of it, you know, dealing with a group of employees and trying to make them happy and succeed as well, you know. So it's not for the faint of heart, you know. So
Lucas, my name is Stephanie. Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you for helping out. I own a small business. I know several of us here do. And yeah, it's that way. I mean, I own a business in Georgia, and down in South Georgia, you have some people starting out at $12 an hour, or someone who actually is skilled with a good skill set like yourself is probably around 30, you know, 3 an hour. But you're looking at under 400,000, you can buy a really nice home with a pool. And so it is it is a whole different situation. But my question would just be a simple, if you had a home to live in here, if you'd had workforce housing, or you'd had a home to live in, I know you've got children and family in other places, so there was other reasons, but would you have stayed if you'd had somewhere to live?
I honestly, to answer that honestly, I don't think that would have really swayed our mind. Like I said, my wife just, she got a once in a lifetime job opportunity, and it was closer to the kids, you know. And um, you know, so I think, you know, like you said, even if there was a house that came up for $300,000, just kind of knowing what we know now, and the opportunity that my wife has, like and like I said, you know, being closer to the kids, I don't know if we would, if that would be a decision maker or not, you know. And it's you know, which is unfortunate, because I love it up here. I love the area. I love Southwest Montana. And I was just telling my wife the other night, I think it was just, it was just the timing was wrong for us. Our kids were just freshly graduated out of high school. And anybody with kids knows that, and Eric can attest to this. I know he can, that, just because they graduate doesn't mean that your job as a parent is done, so with that being said, I think, I just think the timing was wrong. I think if we would have came up here, 5, 6, 10 years later than what we did, we could have made it work. I'm not, my wife and I are both hard workers, or we could have, even we had opportunities, Nikki's dad, he was going to let us stay out at his place, park our fifth wheel out there. And I think he was going to charge us like $250 a month. So, we could have made it work. We definitely, if the circumstances were a little different, you know what I mean? So, it would have been hard. Now, don't get me wrong. It would have been, we would have fought tooth and nail and worked our butts off to try to make that happen. But, I think, like I said, it was just a timing issue. And when we moved out here, we thought, oh, well, it's 10 hours from my kids in Colorado on a good day. But more often than not, it was 11 or 12 hours to get back home. And so if there was some sort of emergency or something and we needed to get back, it was quite the trek, and so that was a big deciding factor, like I said. And then, like I said, with my wife getting the job in Laramie, which is only a little over 2 hours from where our kids are at in Colorado. So I guess long answer to your question, sorry for rambling there, is it would have helped if there was housing available, and affordable housing, but it wasn't a deal breaker. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you for answering that. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we done grueling Lucas for the evening? Does he get to enjoy the rest of it?
We are.
We
Thank you
are. All
very
right.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Lucas,
you,
so
Lucas.
much for all the input. I have some good
Yeah,
notes
and-
from it. I really appreciate
and-
it.
Yeah, and like I told Eric, I'm here to help if there's any way I can contribute. If you guys have questions or anything, just feel free to reach out to me. And like I said at the beginning, I do appreciate the opportunity that I was given here, and the people in this town and Montana in general. I fell in love with it, and I'm kind of heartbroken that we have to leave, but we've got to really think that we're being pulled back in that direction for a reason. So
Best of luck and good fortune to you and your family in the future.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Alex. There's another previous employee of the town. I'd be interested in giving my 2 cents.
Okay, Alex.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So my issue was that the pay. First of all, the pay raise. The pay was a little low. It started in at 21. I believe when I got hired, I was hired under the guise that it was going to be 21. I think within my first week of being there was a snafu with the budget where it was, oh, you may not get 21. And then Eric had to double back to make sure that I was going to stay, for one, because he didn't know if the money was going to be there. So I don't know if that was a budget issue. And I understand it from Eric's point of view. I've been in that position. A little bit of background on myself. I was a U.S. Army sergeant, and then after that, I was a service manager for the Southern California region of Ahern Rentals. I operated the biggest branch out of Southern California. It was a 1.5 million a month profit store. I had 23 employees, 4 of which were field truck operators, and the rest were working in a shop. So I understand the difficulty with getting wages. California, for instance, if you're a mechanic, if you brought a single tool into a shop, the required payment was $26 an hour. If I was hiring a guy to work in my shop that had any kind of experience, if I came to him and said, I'm looking to hire you at 30, 28, 29, they'd scoff at me and tell me that's chump change. That's a first year mechanic that you're looking at. Second, third year, I've been doing this for 10. So I get the frustration with the wages. Housing can be tough. It 100% can be tough. Walking around doing water meters, you definitely see all of the homes that are rented out or they're owned by some of the local businesses in town that people are living in. Knowing quite a few people that have lived in some, moved out of some. My only concern with the town of Ennis offering housing would be just that the people have fallen in my situation where I have 4 kids, I have 3 dogs, I have a wife. If I was to find a better opportunity somewhere outside of the town of Ennis or within the town of Ennis, my housing's gone. So just supplying a house does not, in my eyes, fix it. I think the housing issue is more just it's going to be within the economy and within the town itself. There needs to be something that was done. I was lucky enough to get a house I was renting for $1,400. So I was blessed with that aspect. I did want to hit on the culture of appreciation that Lucas talked on. There really wasn't any appreciation that was within the Public Works Department. There was plenty of jobs that I did or that I offered my 2 cents of knowledge into, and it was either thrown to the side, it was discarded, or I had to offer it in a way that was, okay, this is your idea, you take it, run with it, and then you take all the glory. And then as soon as something goes wrong, or as soon as somebody says, hey, it's not going to work, the big example I like to use for this is I painted the bathrooms at the Lions Park. I was asked to do that in, I want to say starting from February to May in that time range of last year. It was too cold to paint the floors. When I went in there and talked to Eric and said, hey, I'm really sorry, but it's too cold, can't do it. I basically got stuff that was thrown into the shop. Things were, there was cussing that went around that basically I just didn't want to do it because I was being lazy, when in reality I was trying to save the town money. So I didn't feel like my 2 cents was any bit appreciated, especially when I own a flooring company, a cleaning company that does carpets and hardwood flooring and staining. So it was kind of insulting to work for that. On top of that, it was just, there was no way to track hours. There was no HR. There was no way to file any complaints. There was no way to do anything. My hours, I tracked them on my phone. Me and Eric had an issue. I tried to talk with Eric on the day that I left, and instead of, he got up, walked out, and I had nowhere to go to. I reached out to the mayor, didn't get anything back from the mayor on how to address the situation. Just kind of got left out in the cold, like, hey, sorry, sucks to suck, good luck, figure it out. So there is no appreciation, and there needs to be something that needs to be done with that. I mean, the director would walk around talking about each commissioner behind their back, talking about the mayor behind their back, talking about the police chief behind their back, talking about everybody behind their back, and it made me as an employee feel, what is he saying when I'm not in the room? What is being said when I walk away? And I had plenty of citizens within Ennis come up to me and mention that, they have this issue. They've tried to talk to somebody in the town. Nothing's being done with it. What can you do? And when I said, well, all I could do is talk to the director. I could talk to the mayor. This is all I can do. It was, oh, they don't care. And then you would hear the back talk on it. Let's see. I wrote down a couple other things. Having that, Lucas also talked about having a core group of guys. I was willing to stay within the town. I liked living there. I really enjoyed it. I used to work with Kyle Landrew, who was there for quite a bit, who left under the same reasons that I left. And it's really tough when there's just no HR department. There's no way to file a complaint. There's no way to talk to someone when in your handbook that you received the day that you leave says, talk straight to your director. Your director will handle it. Well, if your problem's with your director, who do you go to? Next up is the mayor. The guy previous to me spoke with the mayor. I emailed back and forth, and it nothing came to fruition. So it's kind of like, why work there if nobody cares? And that's one of the big issues with getting people to work for the town. Is people have heard the reputation, they've seen how the public works department carries themselves. I mean, leaving burnouts in the parking lot, cutting people off in the driving through town, the multiple road complaints I've received about driving through there. It's nobody wants to work there because they don't trust who's running the show there. So I hate to be blunt about it. I'm not just trying to be a disgruntled employee that's attacking someone, but I do understand the importance of being a leader and not just someone in charge of something. I mean, it's all the way from the mayor down. It's got to be an effort. Running a situation for Disneyland out of my company down in California. I had to ask guys to come in on Saturday to get numbers up. I showed up every single Saturday. I brought my guys breakfast on the Saturday. We had a crane go down at the SoFi Stadium. I came in on that Saturday and went down there and dealt with that crane, with the two technicians, with the crane company. I was there with all of those guys. Even if I wasn't doing anything, I was standing in the 100-degree sun with a hard hat and a vest with my mechanics, making sure like this is getting taken care of, we're fixing it, and if they need someone to hand them a wrench.
I apologize. I'm going to jump in for a minute because we're getting off track here of what the conversation is supposed to be.
I had a question. You mentioned something about professional tracking. So what I understood was you felt like that your job was not going to go anywhere. The position you were in, there was no path towards a bigger, larger career. Now, was that because opportunities for additional education or training was not provided or offered, or was it because it's a small town and there's only so many slots that can be filled?
No, there was. It's not so much about the education was there. The chance to go up was there. The pay raise it maxed out at 24. I mean, you couldn't go any farther than, the director of the town. So there wasn't like you weren't going to go up in position. But for me, it wasn't a reason to leave if I never got the director position. There was no reason for that.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, you said you felt the training is, there was good opportunity there. Is that in all of it? Or I feel, I haven't, there's not like a training program we're talking about steps for each.
Right.
Like Lucas said, for each section, where we really only did raises based on license before.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So for each, from what my understanding was, the way it was explained to me was every certificate. So if you got your water ticket, if you got your sewer certificate, it was $1 raise. So it would go from 21 to 24. I think it was somewhere, or 23. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I want to say it was $1 raise for each certificate.
But it's just water and sewer when that job actually has quite a few other facets to it.
Yeah, it's got a whole bunch of other stuff to it, but I mean, there's just, I couldn't see how a small town could raise it much more than that, if that makes sense, without doing something drastic with the taxes, if that makes any sense. Like 24 seems fair for what we were dealing with.
so
Okay.
it wasn't.
No, both of them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. We appreciate it. Both of them touched that it wasn't the wages.
Yeah.
I mean, Lucas finished off with, it wouldn't matter what we had done. Their decision was based on
Mhm.
personal decisions related to family. So the only thing that, I mean, but, you know, both of them mentioned it was appreciation. Appreciation could be in many different forms. And like the old days when they used to put employee of the month on the, you know, right as you walked into the grocery
Yeah.
store, you saw the employee of the month, they got to park in a special parking spot. I mean, that was showing appreciation. I am actually surprised that the appreciation in this day and age is not tied to dollars.
Well, a lot of people will
never
do things
is.
for commodity.
No?
No.
Or, you know, if you feel like it's being thankful.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we all know we're not paying our house payments with what we're making here.
Right.
And it does come off sometimes to bother you when you hear other people complaining about what you're doing, and you're like, well, hey, y'all ought to jump in and help too, you know?
Mhm.
But then we knew what we were getting in the beginning. We knew what we were doing. And I really think that there are some people, everybody has what they call love language, you know, and some people it is dollars. Some
Yes.
people it's they want time. I had a guy that worked for me one time. He said, I don't need any more money. I need some time. I need a weekend that I can go off with my wife and kids. You know, I need something like that. So for everybody, it can be something different. Some people want to feel valued and appreciated. And I don't know
Well,
how.
I came into this meeting all ready to go, how are we going to pay them more?
Yeah.
And the only thing I could come up with would be an exchange. You're going to have to reduce some benefits in order to get that up. I mean, we're dealing with a finite pot of money here. We can't raise prices and make money. We're not in that business. So but now I'm thinking maybe it's more of an appreciation thing, like just a thank you, handwritten thank you note from somebody, or like from us, the town commission, recognizing them, recognizing an employee that, you know, service wise, or, you know,
or maybe
an
once every quarter
accolade
they
for
could get together
getting
and have a
something
fish
done,
fry
or-
or a barbecue, or, you know, that you could do something that makes people feel like they're part of the community and the group.
Right. It's more intangibles. It's not, they don't want money. They don't want, you know, an extra day off. They're not asking for that. They're asking for someone to show, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you're doing. That could be very inexpensive, is my point.
Well, just this is Lucas again. Just to be clear, though, I felt like I was appreciated. I didn't get. I didn't feel like I was underappreciated by any means. So I just want to make that clear. Like, you know, Nikki at Christmas time gave me, you know, a thank you card and a little mug, coffee mug. So, you know, I was just relaying my personal experiences with how I, when I was a public works director, what I used to, you know, little things that they did and that sort of thing. But by no means do I feel underappreciated. No, that's not the case with me.
That's good to know.
Good to know. Yeah. Thank you.
Should we take a bio break for a minute? Get my brain back together. Yeah, because I was in the same boat trying to look at wages but at the same time, which company is it? Tech company, and I can't remember, larger one. They decided to do like mini hot tubs in the office so that there would be this new appreciation for having some relaxing downtime. And
I worked at a company, well, a CPA firm, and they brought in a masseuse during tax season. And once a week, you got a free massage.
and 6 months into the hot tub program, one of the supervisors walks by and they were complaining about how small the hot tubs were.
Oh.
So I was like, well, I'm not getting a hot tub then.
Yeah, right.
Well, I really was surprised that it wouldn't have had more to do with housing, because that is a bottom line dollar number for a lot of people. Where I was kind of thinking on that is what I mentioned to y'all before. I know these two guys had told me that they weren't really interested in it, and that's fine because I'm part of a group here, so I feel like it's just whatever ideas we throw up and things. But the city does own property, and the city can donate that property, and you can have a general contractor or someone like my husband to donate the services as long as they're qualified and get all, or somebody else. It may not even be me, or I might have to step off from that, but when you have people volunteering, and so if you could get some, if we could take city land, that puts a price cost on it, and then we could turn around and get several people, you know, might get Corey to do sheetrock, my husband do general, whatever. We could build a few places for the city.
We have an apartment.
Yes,
here.
I think this, Jim mentioned that at, I believe our last meeting or meeting before that, you know, this ought to be for people who actually work in the city, if we can do that to help.
Well, if it's
these
needed,
people.
which I could see, but it would have to be temporary employee housing just for somebody to get here, get their
Yeah.
get their feel
I'd
of the
love
area.
to work within the town because, just to be honest, let's say we were going to hire a city manager. Okay. Nikki already lives here. She works here. She's established here. She's got a home here. She doesn't have to move here and find those things.
Right.
If we had, you know, we could get somebody from trade schools, or we could work with some of our locals or our younger people that do have a desire or want to, because they're going to be at home. They're not going to be wanting to move away. And they, you know, so that, anyway,
Well,
just an idea.
And in
People
Luke,
can't afford to stay here, though. That's the problem.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's why I want to, like I said, I'm volunteering all the
How many
time
of those
for.
kids leave that school and go away
Can
to
afford
they
college
it.
never
and
come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very expensive, I was told today something by somebody how they refer to it. Like that this is where wealthy people live in this area. So you've got people who were born and moved to, and well, you do have a lot of that, Carla. Unfortunately, you do. I mean, in where I came from, you didn't have a $32 million ranch or a $75 million ranch or anything like that. So there, it is bigger.
Well, that's the fair market value of a ranch that was bought over 60 years ago.
Yeah, and
But,
people
by
are
a
having
family,
to
but-
move out of this town that actually were born and raised here to live. So I think we've got a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and I don't really know the answer to all of them, but I'm willing to help to try to find them, I guess
Yeah,
is what I'm
well,
saying.
during COVID, this town started to turn into the suburbs of Bozeman
Mhm.
because people couldn't find housing in Bozeman, so they moved out here because the rent was a little bit cheaper and it made sense to drive.
Yeah.
I think some of those people didn't leave, and and you're right. There's an influence of the wealthy buying homes, like Jim said, or John said. They buy houses, they come here for 2 weeks, and then it sits empty.
Yeah.
So housing is a problem. And I don't know if you guys plan to go on May 2nd to the Madison County Housing.
To the summit. Yeah.
To the summit. I plan to go,
Yeah.
because I want to hear what their plans are. I also, because we've heard it from more than just our employees. We hear it. All the business owners are having to,
Do the same
do the same thing. And it's a huge problem.
Well, I mean,
And
it's
not going to take just us.
Yeah.
It's not going to take just the town
It's going to take
government. It's going to take the whole community to come together and figure out how we're going to make this
It
work.
does,
But,
and
you
it
know,
will.
I'm the product of parents that worked for a city. My dad left World War II. He had nothing. He worked for the ash department. In the ash department, he was able to get licenses and permits and other knowledge that the city invested in him, and he became the head mechanic and the head heavy equipment operator. My mom started as a cafeteria worker, and she started the first satellite lunch program that exists in the United States back in the 70s. So I'm the product of people who have experienced things like Lucas and like Eric have, that, you make pay increases in increments by the knowledge that you're willing to take on and the responsibility that you're willing to take on. There's nobody in the world that appreciates town employees more than I do, or city employees. I can tell you that. And I can just tell you that appreciation is a part of everything, but the opportunity of knowing that there's a next step is extremely important to people, to realize that unless you're just happy with where you are and who you are, right? And there are plenty of people that are happy with that, but
Yeah,
there
but
are
they're the
people that
minority.
need the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
They're a minority. And that, I can just see that when I got engaged with government, one of the first things I did was I was a business owner and they asked me to be on the Wage and Personnel Board. And that's sort of what we're talking about here, creating the ability to be able to have a wage plan that shows people where they're going to be 5 years
Career.
from now.
Instead of
right?
just a
Career,
job,
yeah.
they can have
And
a
they
career.
see the perks and the benefits and the stipends and the bonuses that come with
Yes.
each one of those steps. Do you need to have a lot of money to do that? And the answer is no. You just need to basically put together a program where people can actually envision their life 5 years from now, right? You're doing a master plan for someone's life when you're
Absolutely.
putting together a wage and personnel plan.
And it's one of
And
the
that's really
questions
what it-
that we ask when we do interviews is where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years?
Yeah.
It's a question we ask of them, but then we can't.
We can't show it to
Yeah.
them though, right? I
Right.
mean,
Well,
that's the
typically in
example
government,
that I'm
the
making.
main reason people get into a full-time job in a government, whether it's a town, a state, a federal, is the retirement benefits. It's the benefits. They get their medical taken care of and they get a nice retirement for 20 years.
Alex, I like the whole reason I went for Ennis was the benefits. Like the pay was okay, wasn't the best. I mean, I see where you guys are going with it, but those benefits for me with my 4 kids was like perfect. Like it was great. So that was a big plus for me.
Yeah, it's a windfall. It makes up for the lower wage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Because like you said earlier, we got to come up with it somewhere. So it's either we give them the same
Benefits.
amount of money and we give them housing, or we help them with their retirement, or child care, or because to me, I kind of look at it as that we're a community here and we've all got to work together. Trump or Biden or whoever is not going to come save us when we have a problem. It's us in this little community, and we've got to work together. So I think we should be concerned about everything from our older folks to our infrastructure, to our child care, to our schools. I think we should be concerned about all of it. And what Jim's been talking about with the growth policy, it all just kind of falls in together with what we're doing now. I think if we can get a good group of people and we get community involvement from people in the businesses and the local government, if we can just all work together to try to maybe set some of these goals and come up with some of these plans, because this town has changed just since I've been here in 4 years.
Well, I think we're just in this weird spot where we're like on the verge of, major growth, but we don't have the infrastructure to support it from this level, from the government level.
So where's that growth gonna come? Where's the growth gonna be?
We'll go where the growth's going to be.
Yeah.
Take it a 5-minute, just a
We don't-
minute break.
We have 1 mile by 1
Yeah.
mile.
Yeah.
There's no place to put them.
Motion to take a
It's outside of
10-minute
town.
break. And I'd like to hear from Eric after that, please.
Yeah.
Can we pause these? Just leave them on, or? Yeah, where are you going to put them? Is that what you were asking? Where the land? Where's this land going to come from? Or
There's
who's
no
people
land in
gonna-
town.
who's the
Where's the
people-
water going to come from?
Well, it's the whole
That's the
thing.
problem.
Yeah.
That's where
That's the problem.
The urban
We're
sprawl.
talking about 1 mile by 1 mile here. Remember that.
Well, I think at that point you're looking at probably annexing in some more city to certain places. I mean,
Well, that's annexing more. That's a whole nother conversation.
yes, and that is, and just like the infrastructure, just like the water and sewer. I mean, you got to take care of people that's here first. You got to take care of, I think, downtown and everybody that could possibly be maybe.
I don't know what possible services we could offer to anyone that we're asking to annex into town.
Yeah,
I mean.
I'm just
other
thinking
than
if you
the
put a
police
piece of
department, what do
land,
we have?
yeah.
I mean, the fire department's already
It's a county.
county.
Yeah.
The hospital
Hospital's a
is
county.
already county. We can't offer anything. It's the same thing that happened to us in California. I lived on the outskirts of the town called Santa Rita, which is, 250,000 people strong. But the outskirts, just like here,
was growing exponentially. There's another 150,000 people living outside the town, but using the
Yeah.
town.
Absolutely, and that's what's happening here is, you've not only got your tourists that come in, but then you've got everybody that lives in the county that does use downtown. Parking, get your hair done, go to your local, fish shop, go eat. And the town that I lived in, I actually just made a post the other day. It's called Gilmer County. Anyway, Gilmer County was complaining, a lot of people like, oh my gosh, they're bringing in all these new apartments. We're becoming part of Marietta, and that's down near your area in Woodstock. So you know where I'm talking about. It's became from Atlanta to this little town in LJ that used to be just a second home community. Well, when Zell Miller, which was the governor at the time, put the highway through, then it began to grow and develop all in between it, okay? As it grew and developed, when I went there, there was probably 10,000 people. There's over 30,000 people in the town now, and we had to expand into what they call LJ and East LJ. All these commercial places came in. So now they're looking at, they need more housing, so they're looking at apartments, and everybody goes, we don't want any more people here. We like our small town. Y'all go away, don't come back. But they forget, because I made a comment, I was like, most of y'all on here, I don't even recognize your name. You're transplants too. They just don't like that. It's like I came in the door and I'm gonna close the door. I don't want anybody else here. And my great-great-grandfather's buried there. He fought in the Civil War, and my family goes way, way back to the Indians there. But I'm still a transplant to there. And I would want to be welcomed into the community. And I'm a firm believer in you cannot control what you don't own. If you don't want that piece of property to be apartments or maybe be rezoned, you better own it and buy it. And that's all there is to it. I mean, I may not like change because I really don't. And this could stay just like it is now for me. But if we have more people moving in or we have needs, we're going to have to accommodate that.
Yeah.
So, I think we've got a big job to do.
I knocked on my door. We lived in this town called Cascade. It's unincorporated. It's along Highway 5 north of LA, north of Santa Cruz. He knocked on my door and he's like, I need your vote. I need you to vote to be annexed into Santa Clarita so we can get all the services. And I looked at him and said, what services are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the sheriff. And I was like, well, the sheriff is county.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything different from Santa Clarita except more taxes.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the fire department will come faster. And I was like, the fire department's right here. It's county too. You're not making any sense. Because that Santa Clarita does not have a police force. They have a sheriff's substation there, and the sheriff handles Santa Clarita. So there's absolutely no reason to be added to Santa Clarita unless you want to pay their taxes.
Well, when I lived in the city, I had to pay city and county taxes. I was glad to move in the county and not have to pay city taxes.
Right.
So I can see that side too.
Yeah.
I did that in Georgia at one time. So I think we really need to kind of think about with this. We really need to work with the growth policy. We really need to see where this town is going, where we think it's going, and what can we do to help it.
Which molds pretty much everything. That's going to influence your wage policy. That's going to influence, well, like you said, it's going to influence, code, town codes. It's going to influence a lot. But I was reading in here. One of the gentlemen were talking.
One of the gentlemen said we didn't have an HR department, but don't
within the city limits.
What was that?
We are restricted to hiring people to work for the town who live in the city limits. Why?
So they cannot be a county employee and be a city employee.
No, Eric had that.
County resident and be a city employee.
Eric had that one guy working for him that lived out by Varney Bridge at one time.
Well, there is an exception if they have a special
Not supposed
certification.
to.
Oh.
Well, that is
Yeah,
kind of
they-
odd. I
they
mean,
get a-
that limits where they can live, or where we can
Or
even
what
help
they
to
pay for
afford it.
houses.
Yeah,
Houses out in the boonies are cheaper.
it is because you're only limited to a certain amount of town here, and yeah.
I have to get Eric back online, maybe. Said he was going to join us back from online. Said he was going to jump back online.
Well, I got him a helper until if he wants a helper, until we find somebody. My husband said the other day, he likes Eric so much, he said, I'd go and help him. He said, I'd be glad to help you, you know, I can do that, and give him, my husband something to do, because he's an early rise guy, and he's bored sometimes, you know. But I think that water and sewer is definitely an important position. We definitely have to take care of Eric and these guys.
When, is this today Lucas's last day, or is he still?
He's still here.
End of the month? Does it say they have to live in town, or if there's multiple
Technically, it says.
applicants, they have to consider the one that lives in town first? No, it's not the way it read. They have to live in town.
But they've done exceptions once approved by
There's an
commission.
exception right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ginger went before the council before. They did it for Kyle, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kyle's who it is, yeah.
Yeah. It's something that really should just be removed
Right.
in my mind.
Well, we need to make a note of that, or something, a mental note to somebody, to whenever we get to that point, we can maybe look at that again.
All right. If Eric hops back online, I'm trying to be good and not do my phone while we're in session. Then we'll go from there. But I think we have to break it down into two separate categories right now. Really is our initial recruitment.
Motion to table this until Eric comes back on and we can
Okay.
review the events policy, please.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sounds good. All right. Special events policy. I love it.
You like it?
I do.
Okay.
I have a couple little notes in there, and most of them I just have to double check with.
I'm not like married to anything that's in
You're
there.
not married to this document?
No, so.
Eric, is that you back online? Did I see another human?
I did look at it, I thought it looked good too.
Eric, is that you?
That's me.
It's you. We were going to move on and come back to it when you were on. So now that you're on, we're back to working on our recruitment and retention. So, Eric, as far as recruiting, actually getting somebody else here, what do you think are the most helpful things? Is it wage? Is it housing? Is it?
So, I mean, for me, the benefits are outstanding. But I'm not so sure. I mean, does that even really matter anymore? You know,
It's.
You know, like I'm kind of like it matters, but you know, when I sent you the wages that all the public works departments making in Montana. I mean, we're low, but we're there with the insurance, you know. I don't know if it's enough to attract.
So we have, I'm unclear on the vacation or paid time off policy. Is it tiered? I mean, do you start with, a week and you can work, like, you work for 2 years and you go up?
No,
a
it's
week?
as soon as probation is complete. So I guess there's that idea that you tiered.
1 year.
Yeah, you get more the more you're here, kind of a thing.
But I think that's more under retention and how you retain. You know what I mean?
No, it's actually we use it as a recruiting tool at our office because our tier is very short. After your first year you get 1 week. After your first year you bump to 2 weeks. After your third year you're up to 3 weeks, and after your fourth year you get max 5 weeks, and you're allowed to take that 5 weeks in the calendar year. So if the tier is short enough, is what I'm saying, and quick enough, You can get somebody to, a 4 or 5 week
Yeah,
vacation.
we give a certain amount of that at our business too and everything. And then we had talked about tiering the system as to what we paid as a county versus, or the city versus that. But Eric would already be
Your only
grandfathered
problem
in,
with
would he not? So,
increased vacation is you've got less people
Yeah.
working with you, Eric.
Yeah.
It takes people.
The benefits we have are great. But I don't think
We can't sell it on benefits
I don't
alone.
think it's selling well. That's a great way to say it.
So what
Honestly,
if you did a menu item then? Like you could have this benefit package, or you could have this housing allowance, or
I
because
feel like what's hurting me is when you're done with your tests, you're at 24. That's not a big number.
there's nowhere to
That's
go
what
beyond
I
that.
feel is hurting the public works
Well,
department,
there is
especially when they don't have to pay their own bills or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why having a step plan actually makes sense, because it's great to earn by getting licenses or certifications, but after that, what do you have, right? You have nothing.
Yeah, you
Well,
maxed out.
I mean, I just think
like there's no
I just
additional. We've talked about your weed license, and there's no additional benefit for you to get it because it's not like
well, there
we
is,
said.
because then I'd be able to do my job right. For me, that's
Knowledge counts.
but
Yeah.
But at the
well,
same time, there's more hazard with that. Let's say,
yeah,
I mean, we're doing
there is.
chemical spray. There is additional hazard with that, with no compensation,
Well,
in
and
my mind.
to be fair and honest, just so you know, I just haven't had time to do this. Like, I mean, I just haven't
So,
had time.
Eric, if we did something like Nikki just mentioned, which is a 2 package approach
We,
to you can get
so we
this
have that when
well
you
yeah
start with the
a
town
new
Ennis, it's 22 an hour. It's $1, um, $1 per test you pass is the raise. Now it was
right
more when I was there, but we raised the starting wage up to 22. It was I don't know, 17, but
yeah
we
I remember
raised
that.
that starting wage up to 22, which cut the amount you got when you passed your test. But I honestly think that 24 number hurts a lot. I really do. I mean, that's not like, say I'm 25 years old. I'm gonna look right by it, or 18, because I know I can go labor for one of these excavators for 30. You know,
Spot On Fencing was offering 40 an hour starting a while back.
okay, so that's my, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
get you.
honestly feel
Yeah, allowance
that
would help.
ending wage needs to be raised. And,
Well, a
you know,
housing allowance, an employee could use that towards their own home of their choice or towards rent.
I don't know that housing allowance would fix it here in Ennis. $500,000. Even we couldn't afford to buy a house for our employees. So,
Well,
is
see,
that,
Eric, you were in here a while ago when I was talking about this. I said maybe we should try, and I don't know the answer to this, but the houses are very expensive. It is not going to get any cheaper right away. I think that we do have to look at the prices we are right now, and we have to consider this is the new normal for now. So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know the problem, the solution to this. I think that maybe we should look at, is there a house? It'd be nice if the town owned a house and we could, convert that, or
we could charge below market rent.
yes, and we can definitely do that and make it where it's considered of what they call affordable, and we could even do it in co-ops. There's so many options that we could do.
do you know what affordable is here in Ennis?
Well, right now, about the cheapest house I think is around $375 in town.
That's
or
not
43.
That's not affordable housing.
43.
No,
Affordable
no,
housing is actually, if people were honest when they say, "Oh, we're doing affordable housing," they'd be getting around maybe $1,000 for rent.
well, I'm not
Okay,
claiming
maybe.
that any of it is affordable right now. I definitely don't think it is, but I think it is what it is, and we're going to have to deal with what the price of the market is.
My thoughts on it are this: I think I'd like to see the ending wage go up $2 and still have that tiered where you pass this test and you get $1. You know, Lucas has a lot more licenses than our what this town needs. We don't need all those Class A and all those licenses, but it would have been great to have around though for when it does happen, because it's going to happen. You know, to keep these guys around, I think.
It will, and
Yeah, it's
ideally,
more
I
money.
think it would be great if we
I
could
don't.
continue to look for someone local. I know that, you're probably like most of us, and you go like you did the other day, young people, and having to deal with that. But there are some really good young people out there. It's just finding the right person. If we can find somebody from the Madison Valley who even has some skill sets already that we could maybe train or get them to work with you, someone that they've got family connections, so they're not wanting to move. They've got some income already coming in, or they've got a place to live, I should say, at grandma's or aunt's or somebody's house.
I have a recommendation, and maybe it goes no place, but I think we should really ad hoc this. And what I mean by ad hoc is that there should be two members of the commission that sit maybe with Eric uh, a couple of times over the next few weeks for like an hour.
Eric and I'd like to like include Karen in it too, just because she's been the other one that is
That's great.
that struggled with
Well, and there were
with the influx and outlet, because that's a part-time position, and is it because it's part-time? So maybe there's another piece there that we're missing.
Eric, I just don't want to cobble something
Yeah.
together here. Cobbling something together is just
not
going
gonna
to
solve it
create a
tonight.
problem in the
Yeah.
future.
But I want to be able to at least put an ad out. So I just leave it as it is for now and go, because we've been
So we've been holding for this talk right now. I've been
like
holding
if
on
we were
doing our
gonna
thread and all that for this talk right here, right now.
Well, you could put an ad out with a DOE. So wages will be dependent on experience, and then that gives us time.
Yeah.
This can't take time though. It has to be 2
It's gotta
weeks,
be
right?
pretty quick.
We
Yeah.
need to put a deadline in 2 weeks and have something in place and to actually be
Because we
able
have to
move
look at the
forward.
budget overall, and we can't do that tonight.
No.
The one
mean,
thing, the
need to
one
go
thing
over
you guys got to know about public works, it's not a glamorous job at all. And when you say and you start talking about sewer, people are instantly not interested. So to get somebody who actually understands that you're not grabbing turds out of the water all day, that's really not what happens. It's hard. It's I don't.
Yeah, it goes back to our civics classes. The trash man makes a bunch of money because nobody wants to do it. It's economics. It's supply versus demand. You don't have a supply of people who want to be a trash man because it's not pleasant. So understand the conundrums.
But
Well, they're actually picked up trash for the city next year. So
Public Works
talking about
in the
public
state
service,
of
I mean,
Montana
and
is
keep in perspective, right?
the hot
The
item.
majority of people back in the day when they were trying to build a family, they didn't just work one job. In 1956, my father started a rubbish company and we sold it in 1991. So I was raised around rubbish trucks. We built rubbish trucks. We drove rubbish trucks. We drove bulldozers. We went in dumps and landfills all the time. I mean, to your point, I mean, there's nothing glamorous about saying that you're a person that works around sewerage, right?
The
There's
problem,
nothing glamorous.
You're right, but I also think that people are having to come back around to having two jobs to make it anymore. And a lot of these younger kids are carrying 2 jobs. You know,
I have
it's
The
not
other
common anymore.
I had 3 jobs when I raised my children.
So right now on Mayor's listserv, this is one of those items where there are, just hopping in on the conversation that started today, 6 towns of about our size that have one guy that's working.
Yeah.
And they're going, okay, he's only allowed so much vacation time, but he certainly can't take it because you can't have a town without an operator. So as part of this, the discussion from the mayors is, let's start creating some interlocal agreements with our neighbors saying, hey, maybe like for us, we talk to Sheridan and go, so that Eric can actually have a weekend, we need to, can you cover or be on call for that? And then we'll
I
train some of our guys to do that. But we got to build some of those extra programs so that Eric can have a real breather.
Yeah.
I've
And then,
taken my vacation 4 years in a row.
yeah,
Doing it again because
no,
now
you're
I
not.
can do it again. You don't have a choice. What are you going to do?
Go beg the
No.
guy in Sheridan to cover
What
and do a little bit in
are you
between. We'll
gonna
form a plan, but you need a
do? What
vacation.
are you gonna do?
All right. So Eric, you're looking at $2 more. We'll two to sit with Eric, who's feeling like tackling. Okay, so Jim and Mitch, we're gonna tackle
So, and
a
how I
step plan and talk this.
Potential budget side, we can hit it from
I
the
just asked
wage
for
and.
the actual on the enterprise fund.
Yeah, I'll
Ginger can send it to
but
me.
I'd like
get
to
that from here.
I'd like to like Sheridan, Twin, even Virginia City. They hired the guy at $27 an hour just recently. And that's what actually 100 people maybe in town when I'm
Okay.
that's kind of where I come up with that number. And
$27 an hour, what benefits package goes along with that?
I mean, they're
Equal.
definitely paying for the family's part of the insurance. That's the only
We
thing.
need a quick look at
We just
the window right around us.
That's the only thing different. But
Well, I'm doing a basic math computation right now. And the rule of thumb is that your housing expense not be more than 30% of your pay. That's
Right.
that's gross, not net. That's before you take taxes. So if at 24 an hour, someone could afford $1,248 a month. At
what's the
26
house
an hour,
payment?
you're looking at $1,350 a month. We're not making much progress.
What's the house
towards
payment now? 3,200.
Oh, you can't get anything out here for less than $2,000. If you're a family, you
Well,
can't.
the average in town right now is around 3,200 a month for
For
the new purchases.
Well, if you're purchasing, if you're renting, you're looking at $2,000, 2,200.
Yeah.
And this is what we're gonna try to figure out, right? I mean, because there's some merit to having an à la carte menu
Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
what John needs isn't necessarily what I need. And what
Right.
Stephanie needs is not necessarily what
And
I
I
need.
also-
or
Maybe I don't need
what
a
his
housing
needs,
allowance,
right?
but I really
Right.
need the insurance. Maybe
So-
I don't need the insurance because it's just me, or I don't
Right,
need as
yeah.
many
Right.
add-ons for
Exactly.
And
kids.
that's why an à la carte menu can actually work here. You can
think it's a
actually
good
take,
idea.
and you can create the opportunity for someone to actually pick is what the ideal out of a wage package that is going to entice them to
I
want to
think that's a
stay
good
and to
idea.
build a future from.
I
Okay.
mean, if we
I
want
like
town
this
to-
talk, but we
if
gotta.
want it-
If we do all this, the first thing we got to do is get more tougher on who we hire.
Well, you
Physicals,
get more applicants.
physicals,
Better
physical.
plan.
You got to pass a physical before you come here, because
Yep.
when you
We
get here,
talked about that at
broke,
training.
Just like,
can't do
just
crap.
like the sheriff said-
Like we got to get
Sheriff-
real about it.
Eric, the sheriff said to us that he's holding back on hiring just anybody, and he's making sure that whoever he
Well,
hires
I'm there now. This is where
they're going to
I'm
be
at.
qualified. They're going to be good people, and that you need to make a decision. You know, to have a warm body in a seat doesn't accomplish anything. It
No.
just, it's silly
makes-
logic.
I mean, you learn
I,
Government
that
entities,
but
contract
sooner or later,
employees
you get to that point.
Contract.
Oh, yeah, I know.
have an employee
I know.
contract.
so where I'm at with
You're
hiring
on
tonight
that
is
for
I'm not
2
hiring
I
anybody.
still love my employees.
No.
Oh, man, we just.
And
we go through
we
it.
did that. We tried to do that with the ambulance portion because so that's how I know. Then she asked if you could do a contract.
Montana allows private entities to contract employees, where you sign an employee contract that says, you know, I'm going to be with you for 2 years, and if I renege on that, this is what I lose.
Well,
So we
and
don't-
that I'd
You're
like
not
to do
allowed
that
to-
with the
you're not
cost of
allowed to
the
do that in a
license
government.
from now
No.
on.
We tried to even do just like the ambulance. We would do free training, free EMT class, and then you had to stay for a year or 2 or whatever. And then no, we couldn't
Just
uphold
fell
it.
off.
So
We did that for people that we moved from other states. We would pay for their moving to get to Montana, and we're like, you
Yeah.
owe us 2 years because we just paid
Yeah,
$5,000 to
we
get you
do
here.
that. If we pay for their travel expenses and their moving expenses, then that's incorporated into like a package.
Yep.
And yeah, they sign a contract.
Not
with everybody
everybody
does,
needs
but-
the same things. Let's
I
really,
think that's a good
let's
idea.
think about
Yeah.
just a la carting this.
Yeah.
And we can have the wages as what they are, but when it comes to housing expenses and other things, you can build a list where people can say, this is what I need to be able to take your job.
And remember, our benefits package is $11 an hour.
Right.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
we need to double
Yeah.
check that before
Yeah.
we do that.
How many employees are on? I mean, I know you based that calculation on 13 employees, but how many of those 13 are actually on the plan?
Yeah, and if there's less, that,
Well, no,
Or
because
I know we pay out the stipend if they don't, but who is actually on it?
there's nobody that's taking the stipend portion.
so how many employees do you have? 2 police, 1 Eric,
Well,
2
current
The
engineer,
office, the library,
1 library,
2 library,
2
two,
libraries.
there's
Karen
7.
and Susie. But
Yeah, and
So that 11 might be 22 an hour.
I need to
I
check.
figured it up at home while I was watching last
Yeah.
time's meeting, and I was like, it's 1960 an
Yeah.
hour. That's what I came
Well,
up.
see,
I came up with
thought one of
7.
y'all called out 1908 an hour.
Yeah.
And then
You did near the end, yeah.
we have to double check and see if the judge is in there.
Yeah.
So just remember that when you guys are talking and coming up with the à la carte, that there is a value to the benefits package. And
Oh,
everybody who's talked tonight has said the benefits are extremely important to,
Can,
their
um,
employment.
And that was
Can we-
Karen's, like Karen hired
Decide on
a
meeting
part-time.
day? Do you wanna meet Monday?
Can I say something?
What, Eric?
Can I just, when it comes to benefits, they are great.
Okay. Eric, is
Well-
there any scary days next week where you can't meet?
Right. I would like to meet Monday, take the weekend and put together
Well-
ideas and then come together on Monday or Tuesday,
Are-
early
What,
if you're available.
I think Monday is.
and
probably
you are,
Eric, because he's just recovering from a weekend.
True.
Well,
and you are, I actually have, so right now, Lucas and I are concentrating on all the work it takes 2 people to do. Monday's out, probably Tuesday's out.
Does
Thursday and
Thursday
Friday
work,
for sure are out, but after the end of the month, he's gonna be gone. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to get done before he leaves, and he's being awesome and hanging out here, even though his wife
Thursday's a new month,
is
so
leaving tomorrow.
Thursday is May, yeah.
Thursday's a new month. Can we, Eric, can you do Thursday morning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Can we do Thursday
Why
morning?
are we putting this off?
We're not putting it off. We're
We're giving you Lucas until the 30th, and the first of the month is Thursday.
we need your input on this, and
I'm
I mean,
here.
we have to look at, yeah, but I don't have actual numbers from the financials. We don't have enough information.
I've asked
To
you this,
make-
right?
So
She
I
just asked for the enterprise fund.
And also, we need to take the time to sit back, think about it,
Why
put
can't we
together
fix
a
it?
couple of,
Why can't we just buckle our heads down right now and fix this?
Because we don't have all the numbers, Eric. So
All right.
I think we can still run the ad for wage depends on experience. And then if there's one that comes out and like you
So, I mean-
absolutely love, Eric, that you're like, this is the guy, this is the one, this is it. We just ask the council,
Well,
can we
gotta
start
be
at
honest-
$2 an hour more?
I got to be honest with you guys. I have turned 3 people away. I am not hiring just some dude anymore. It's turned out disastrous for me.
That's
Okay.
why we want to
So-
take the weekend to put together a presentation we can bring to you for different options that we can offer to these people and try to entice them to stay with us.
Yeah.
Right now, just
It's
giving
gonna
them
be
a wage
money.
increase is
I'm-
not
I'm-
going to bring somebody in here at 27 because they can't pay rent. At 27, they'll have extra income of $1,500 to pay rent. Where are they going to rent for 1,500? They're not.
Nowhere.
So
That's
we've got to
so-
figure something.
so
we
we
can
all know what the problem is, right? It's money. Correct?
Yes.
We're not sure.
But
I think
we
it's
know where it's going,
what's
right?
going to be
Limited money too. We don't have anything that we can sell to bring in more money. We can't raise prices. We're dealing with
We've been talking about it for a lot of years, though, haven't we?
We
Was
can
this
raise
could be another one of those?
prices.
Oh,
We're-
I
we're raising
understand that,
water and
but
sewer.
That's
are you
gotta be-
going to raise?
I mean, where are we going to get the money from? So you look at, okay,
Yes.
we're raising taxes, or not taxes, but
I
if there
can have
was
Bobby
a
up here on the second.
water tax,
Do a
they
rate
raise the
study.
water bill, then you're looking at raising taxes people don't like. We
Yes.
may have to, we do
They
some
need
housing.
raised anyways.
Let's collect our thoughts here, right? We need information, we need documents, we need budget numbers. We need to make sure that we're not biting off something that we can't actually support. So
And we also have
let's get our information together.
we have all of the town residents that, are relying on us to do our due diligence. And by making a hasty decision tonight,
How is this
because
hasty?
you just wanting to,
We can't make a decision.
We
tonight.
can't
We're
make a
not
decision.
voting on the damn.
We're not voting on anything, Eric. We can't.
It's a workshop.
So anything, we have to have something to be prepared for the first meeting in May that is the actual can vote, plan to present to the public for their decision, for their input in the council's decision.
2 meetings. We can have a meeting on Thursday. We can have a meeting on the following Monday.
Yep.
Right? And we can have something ready for our first meeting, which would be Thursday.
That's what I was gonna ask you. I'm like,
There
can
you
you
go.
guys be ready by,
We can.
yes,
what is
Yep.
it,
We
the
need
8th or
information.
whatever
We
it
need
is?
to have budget numbers. We need
Right.
to,
we need to
We
have
need
the
to-
actuals right now
right. And
and
what,
project and be able to project.
right. And what the full wage package is for someone who fills this position. We need to actually be able to build on it.
Mhm.
And Eric, another question. I know at one point you had 3 people working in that department. Is it sufficient for the 2, or are you going to have to hire a third, whether part-time or not?
If I had 3 guys working there that were actually willing to work, not just telling me what they do and what they aren't going to do. If I had 3 good employees such as Lucas, we'd be unstoppable. Lucas
So
and
3 other than you,
yes,
I need to,
2 other.
yes, because that would give this public works position, the director position, more time for the direction this town desperately needs to go. Desperately. Like, you need a guy sitting in here 24 hours a day, just dreaming up ways to get money in here. Like, you need that.
you need somebody for at least a
Right.
year just to plan, just to put the water system into our new GIS mapping. I mean, you,
So now we're
Many
looking at 2
responsibilities.
bodies.
Well,
Okay.
let's do our work and let's figure it out. And
all right,
we can be
Eric, we'll
back
see you
in time for-
Thursday, and I will get them all the documents they need before then.
Thanks for your input, Eric. We're gonna use it.
We're going to talk about
Thank you, Eric.
special events, so you don't have to hang out anymore. Unless you want to. He doesn't want to. I don't want to. Okay. Special event. Thursday, what time? We'll figure that out.
9 o'clock.
Did
What
we
time you
need
guys
to,
open?
did we need to do anything on the guidelines for the seasonal, temporary, and short term, or do you want us to? take
No,
that
that was I gave that as those are the options for insurance. And Eric, we're talking about actually using the seasonal or temporary. We're trying to clarify. We'll clarify for somebody that just kind of helps us with the lawn part.
He is hired.
He's
He
hired
has
for the
for the summer. 2 days a week he's going to mow, and that's all it really takes. I mean, former employees drug that out all week, but it really
We
only
can-
takes this much.
Isn't that seasonal?
That's seasonal, yeah.
Yeah.
That is.
I think it's seasonal.
you can do. Where's the temporary?
You can use temporary. Temporary has a number of more conditions to it. That's a,
Temporary, to me,
No, short term. That you can do short term in this if you wanted
90
to.
days of work, yeah.
90 days of actual work. They
Yeah.
Do
that's
not
what we
accrue
should probably use.
that was
crew
what we
leave
talked
and in
about
most don't qualify for other benefits.
Yeah.
So you can do 90-day hires. And like if we're talking about our tiers and options, I wanted to be able to look at these and go like maybe your 90 days are you pay them, you do pay them at 27 because they're not going to do the benefits. You're not going to do the whatever, this, that, or the other. So maybe in our hiring and whatever, we need this to say these ones, we're going to say the wage is this.
Yeah.
Short term is the one that's less onerous
Yes.
on the town.
yes.
But that might be perfect for if we could grab some of the teachers for the summer that are off and we just need them to do
Somebody
said
who's-
set of
You can
text.
even
somebody who's home from college.
Student,
I mean,
yeah,
Hello?
student,
A lot
Hello?
of options. Thing, yeah.
Hello?
yeah.
Yes.
Eric,
I do have a guy who used to work for the town. He's coming back for the summer just to mow. So maybe we should meet sooner than Thursday so you can discuss that because it's 2 days a week he's going to be here mowing. I mean,
Yeah, this is different.
This is different.
This one, I'm
You
not
can
concerned in
hire
your
a short-term.
overall plan because it's a short-term worker that's
Because
not
that
gonna
wouldn't really
impact
affect
This
that
is
anything.
up
Yeah.
to you.
It wouldn't
This is
really
really
affect
up to
this
you.
guy or
This-
that short, the summer.
This falls into
employee.
the personnel
Yeah,
umbrella.
I mean, it's gonna fall in your budget somewhere, but it's a small amount compared.
even if we did the 27 for the 90-day short term, we will still be within budget because in this year's budget, we
We
budgeted
meant
for
for
four.
3
We-
plus Eric. Yeah.
Yeah,
we
we
always
budgeted
do.
full staff.
Yeah.
So
That would be
we
awesome.
are
I'm telling
definitely
you.
within to say for a short term, 90 days of actual work, we can do 27 an hour.
You can do
You
this
can
right
do
now,
this.
though.
Yeah. You don't
Okay.
need us to do that.
But there was nothing, we didn't have anything when we did our wage resolution. So technically, I can't. Do you see what I'm saying? When we did our wage resolution for the budget session on what every position was getting paid,
Mhm.
we didn't ever define a short term or anything else. So for me to just say, well, today I'm picking this, that we are going to have a short term worker
So
and we're
we
paying
need
him
to one of
27
us
because we have the
present
budget
and
for it.
create that?
So I'd say
No,
with
she's saying we need
your
to vote on it.
pre-approval, I will prep a resolution saying our short-term worker for the summer will make 27 an hour
And you'll have
Yeah.
that
for the May,
Thursday.
but we can offer it to them because they're not having the insurance. There's not the
Yeah.
offset.
Yeah.
It's still within the budget.
There's
Yeah.
wiggle room in the budget and there's,
Mowing should probably start the week that we meet.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be quick enough to get a vote out and get him hired? And
I think so.
Eric? He's ready to roll?
He's ready to roll.
Okay.
He
You're, He's ready,
waiting.
your lawn cutter guy is ready to roll
He
on
is.
short. Okay.
May 9th, right?
The assumption was he would come in at the lower end of our scale right now. That's what which to me makes sense, because he doesn't. I mean, he might still have his licenses, but I don't think he just wants to mow. He's retired now. That was the assumption.
So you're suggesting that the 24?
The lower price, yes, what he's saying.
No,
He's
entry
saying
is
where
21.
where you were looking at it like, okay, but we're getting benefits, so we could pay him more.
Minus
He's like, this guy just
licenses.
wants to mow, and he's willing to take the lower price.
Well, if you want to give more, he's not going to say no. But
Of course not.
Yeah.
No. I see your wheels turning over there. What do you
it's
think?
very important to him that it's just mowing and nothing else. So
No trimming.
I think it's one of those things you look at and go back to the menu, go, do you want to have a higher rate as a short-term worker where you're only going to get 90 days of work, period, end of story? Or would you take a lower rate and choose to be a seasonal
Right.
in which you're going to accrue vacation and sick? But if you just want to mow lawns and do it at a higher rate, that's your thing. If you want to take a lower rate and do seasonal
Well,
with
I'm thinking
vacation and
he's
benefits, that
2 days a
well,
week.
you won't
Is
have
it
any other
90
benefits.
hours?
with him being
Run
retired,
90 work days.
So you're looking at 2 days a week for 90 calendar days.
90 actual days of work, so he can come in.
This is exactly what we're talking about doing, like it is structured here. And this way, you have 3 options of hiring someone
Yeah.
of what fits their lifestyle and their conditions. That's really the
Yeah.
unique way about doing this. And that's really what we're talking about doing, Mitch.
So on the short, then we're going to hire him for 90 work days. What is he going to do when the grass stops growing?
They're not allowed to work more than 90
Oh, gotcha.
within a 12-month period. So it's also one of those things where you could be like, do you want to be the on-call guy for snow day?
There you go.
Do you want to, or just be on call for checks and you teach him how to do checks so that Eric can leave? He does this, whoever the 90-day is, he's responsible for these checks on these pre-scheduled weekends. And if there's an emergency, we call Sheridan so that Eric can actually have a vacation.
But if we hire him and he does 90 actual days of work, his term has ended. Can we turn around the next week and hire him again for another short term?
Within a 12-month period from hire date.
That's what I thought.
But it doesn't sound like he wants to do more than this.
Yeah, it sounds like he
No,
wants
not
to
this
mow some
particular
grass.
Fine with me. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to clarify,
I think they're just worried about in the future in
for
general,
lawn,
kind of
yeah,
talking
the way
about
she's
other
talking, like
people.
somebody to do checks, to be on call for snow day. We can do that, but you're gonna run out.
Yeah, because this guy, he only wants to come and mow grass for 2 days a week?
Yeah.
Right.
That's his gig. So,
That's
that's
fine.
all it really takes. Honestly, that's all it
No,
takes.
Okay.
there's 3 different vehicles here for us to work with, and that's actually
Yeah, that's
a
where
good
we'll
thing.
start.
So
Okay. All right, Eric, we'll touch base with you. I'll see you Monday and we'll throw together ads.
We
And
can
go over
do
this.
this earlier too if you guys want to. I mean,
Well, I'm available pretty much every day next week. So,
Monday's an UC day. I will just say that because there's already
well,
Yeah,
a meeting with you. The audit starts Monday and court is, we've got 40.
yeah, I'm already painting lines downtown Monday, so
let's just stick with Thursday.
let's stick with Thursday, yeah.
But I'll touch base with you on Monday and we can at least go through.
There's a lot for us to actually have to look at before we even get to Thursday.
Right,
Things to understand.
Okay.
I've got a lot to do.
Well, Thursday is just him and I, Eric.
Yeah, so that we don't
that's
have
what I
a.
was saying. Y'all got a lot to do.
Yeah.
All right. Eric, we'll see you Thursday.
Thank you, Eric.
Have a fabulous
Thank you, Eric.
evening.
Really appreciate you.
Okay. Special events.
Special events. I had a comment if we're ready for
Shoot.
that. I think I'm on page 2, where it says a special event permit is required for any event that meets the following criteria. Is it all the criteria?
Any
2 out of 3?
Any.
Okay,
any
so
of the criteria.
any event that meets any of the following
Mm.
criteria. We missed the word.
I could see what she's already saying. So,
Yeah.
what about if I want to book the Lions Pavilion for my family reunion
Yeah, you need one
and insurance? Well, there's only 10
because
of
it's
us.
on public property.
But a lot of places like that'll let you sign up and.
They
you know,
say if
Not-
it-
Sign
that's
a
what they
waiver
said.
and sign a waiver.
And you.
A whole
yeah,
bunch of the
and
other
you
ones,
can rent 'em.
I said
mean, you
it
can
said if
charge
it
X
was.
amount of dollars for it.
That's
Those
not what we're talking
businesses
about.
Do that. You're talking about
We're
liability.
not, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a special events
Yeah.
license.
Do they
And
need
if
the
this is
special
gonna be the
events?
policy, then this is the policy.
But is that a special event?
Well, if you read it, having, a family reunion with 50 people, is not, that's invited people, not attracted people. Did we define what an event is? At the top.
A special
A
event.
special event, yeah.
There are
A
thresholds.
planned
on
event
here.
that
They have
requires
to
the
be
use
met,
of
and
public
you meet the
properties,
thresholds,
public
and here are
streets,
the
or public
requirements.
spaces,
Exactly.
and is anticipated to attract a large number of participants, spectators, or spectators. Got spectators in there twice, such as festivals, parades, races, outdoor concerts, and large gatherings.
I know if like every year Danya Smith at the Lions Club, she sends me the events. And I look through the events and go, tag, these ones need it based off of it's not a private family, small gathering thing. They do a lot of celebration of life. It's like the pavilion itself is usually what the booking is for the Lions Club. Like that building, I feel like they're kind of controlling the scheduling of it, not our parks director, so there's no fee associated with it. It doesn't affect the use of the rest of our space if they're doing just the pavilion. And they're not spewing out of it. You can hold about 25 people in the pavilion.
Yep.
You want to celebrate grandma's whatever and know that you have it so
Well,
that
I think we just need to define what a large gathering is.
Yeah.
Well, it says 50 people. An event anticipated to attract more than 50 people.
There are thresholds there for everything.
Well, I was gonna say, you're gonna have some events
Well,
that don't have
attracting 50 people or invited just
Attract-
50 people.
50 people.
50 max is there.
Then let's
Yeah.
take attract out, because that to me means I'm setting up like the chamber is gonna do their brewery thing down there in May. They are going to attract people to come to it. It's not an invitation only type thing.
Sure.
But I
Yeah.
think that's what's to be anticipated when you're planning a special event,
Yeah.
right? That when you're planning a special event, that you need to understand what your audience is going to be,
Yeah.
and that you need to somehow put a number to that. And
Well,
if
I
you-
was just trying to differentiate it between somebody having their kid's birthday there and inviting, they invite 25 kids and each kid brings an adult. You now got 50 people.
Right.
Is that going to require a special event because it's a birthday? They're not attracting anybody off the street. It's an invited event.
But all it takes is one of those people that's been invited to turn around and contact a whole bunch of people on
That's
Facebook
true.
and say, hey, guess what? We're having a birthday party for my sister, and all
That's
of a sudden there's 100 people out there,
Yeah.
and now you need to
Now
have
you-
resources,
Well, then
police
let's-
department, and
Let's take the word
Insurance.
attract out and any gathering of
Anticipated
With 50 or plus
anticipated
people, yeah.
gathering of people 50 or more.
But I'm fine with that.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
sounds good.
I'm sorry, I get tripped up on words.
Are you taking notes?
No, I'm not, but I can.
He said he was taking no ownership of this and that you could consider it a
I
part
wrote
any way
it,
that you
I put
wanted
it
to.
together, but
I
yeah.
can mark it up when I get home. The only place you're gonna be able to charge this and require this is Lions Park.
No.
No, any event that's gonna be on.
Any
city
event that
property.
closes any public street or sidewalk. So when the movie theater, and I had 9 million emails and this back and forth, we should have been charging them. And that one, I feel like
Shedhorn
there's
Sports when they
we'll
do the
get-
rendezvous.
Yes, special event.
Yeah. So the town is gonna charge a business to bring commerce to this town.
No, we're assessing.
Yes,
We are
because
assessing
they're
fees
also
to
bringing liability to this town.
we are assessing fees to recoup the costs so that the taxpayers as a whole aren't paying for those businesses to bring
liability.
commercials
So
into
tell
theirs.
me events that go on during the year that you're gonna charge this fee for. Tap into Ennis,
The
So-
Hunter's Feed,
Hunter's Feed,
Christmas stroll, you got
the parade.
yeah, 4th of July.
Well, how are you gonna decide the fee? Because for tap into Ennis, you charge for every vendor.
If you
charge for every.
This
float.
was on the drive for you to review if you had comments on it. This also has a set just special event fee that's $50. We get rid of the vendor fee when it happens, but that one would need an additional fee just for the alcohol. So that we can recoup the cost of having to have an additional officer on that day to handle that event. These fees are just designed to recoup the costs that the town incurs by having these events in the city and the resources that we need to do so. There's additional trash when it comes into
I
tap.
was gonna
There's
say the parade.
to play in the
generates
parade.
Tons of trash.
There's also
The town also
probably
makes
about $20,000 worth of the radios that the town owns that are used that day.
I understand. I'm just saying, how are you gonna assess it when before it had been vendors for, I'm not saying we shouldn't charge something. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, how are you going to
By the policy.
determine if John decides he wants to have something at his store like Shedhorn has, then is it gonna, I mean, you're just gonna.
Are
If
you
I close
closing
down
the-
the street,
If you're
Yeah,
closing down the
if you
street,
Close down the sidewalk or the street, yes.
everything that's in here.
oh, your donuts.
You gotta get donuts?
Okay.
No, that's the rule. If your phone goes off during a meeting, you owe everybody donuts.
Ooh, I
I like that one.
Okay, so one things that we actually have to look into. I do like the 30 days because I've got one that our current says 10 days, and I've got a permit that
That's not enough.
for the
to-
29th, and I don't have all my questions
that's
answered,
not
so I have
enough time to get
calls
all
to.
your employees in mind.
And if we
handle
need
them.
additional resources,
Yeah.
like if there's a larger event like Moods on the
Mhm.
Madison, when that we used to host that, I think 30 days would have been pushing it because you had to have, but in here that actually covers it. You have to have your own ambulance, you have to have your own security, you have to have your own that. So that expectation is clear from the gate. There's already an event that may be in the works for the 5th of July here that this would actually help greatly in saying, no, these things are already required. Event location, including maps, necessary, required for any event involving alcohol. I'll give you my scribbles
Okay.
because we have to because Department of Revenues, but just so they know ahead of time, if you're having alcohol, I need the map that says this is your controlled area so that I can check it off.
It does have to be in a controlled area.
And then proof of liability, we'll just have to put a comma there saying that that's naming the town as additional insured, not just that they're insured, but that we are
Yes.
Mhm.
additionally insured. We have to check on the insurance. If that's because remember we waived this whole discussion. We went to 1 million when it was the Lions Club because we knew that they had proven themselves to be a reliable group, but the state statute is 1.5.
1.5, yeah.
So we might have to change
I think
that.
it needs to be 1.5.
I think
I
it
was gonna
does.
say, that's low.
And then maybe you just put an
$1 million.
exemption in there that says, if
I have to cover,
like the
when we
chamber's
go to a
proven
hotel,
time
I
and
have to
again that they've
cover
met
2
the
million to have one person walk in the hotel.
Yeah.
From our company, if we're having an event. It's 2 million.
Well, they don't sell 1.5, so that's why it's 2.
Yeah.
But I didn't make the rules on what the statute is for what you can do. So just those numbers would have to change to 1.5. I know I'm pre-betting that Ed will say that when he reviews it. We can take out in the review process, take out community development, and just put probably the mayor or whoever to ensure staffing needs, because I need to see these so that I know if I need to.
Well, yeah, you would be the final sign off.
Yeah.
So you're saying remove community development if applicable.
And add mayor.
Add.
And that's kind of how we work it right now.
Okay.
So, and under approval, it's town manager or designee, maybe mayor or commission chair. So if I'm out of town for something, I shouldn't be for 30 days. If the 30 days in there, it shouldn't be an issue. But in my absence, if there was a final signature, I don't know if we just say commission chair. Approval and fees, number 5, first line.
So it should be mayor or
Commission chair.
commission chair,
Oh, okay.
rather than town manager or designee.
Fees, I don't know if we want to entertain the thought of a security deposit. It gets kind of back and forth with the money, adds a complication step, but I know I probably would have kept it had I known 1 year at TAP, because the bathrooms were destroyed.
Well, I was wondering, because we're going to get to it where it says that if the person who is renting and having the event does not clean it up appropriately, then they can be charged for that. So
Any costs incurred by
how
the
easy is it to
town.
recoup that charge afterwards?
It should be an invoice. From the town to the organizer.
And if that's how we want to do it, that'll work.
But the 1 point or the $2 million insurance that we're asking for,
They could always,
if something like the bathrooms happened again,
you can put a claim in
you
for
can
it.
claim it, yeah.
But if they don't pick up their trash, or what else? We've had, it was a fun car rodeo and we taught people stuff, but the car was left down there for too long and I wasn't going to have a car with broken out windows sitting down at the park and I couldn't get a hold of the event. So
You had to have a tow. And you couldn't recoup that cost.
it was built to them. That time it worked out fine, but
But the event organizer could just disappear, is what you're saying.
So what would you get as that?
A security deposit.
I mean, but what amount are you thinking of? I mean, what did that cost you to have, let's say, that towed off, or?
tow would be right around 200.
Okay, and if you have to have somebody go down there and clean up the park, let's say I have a party and I don't pick up any birthday cakes or plates, stuff, and you got to go down there and do it. Do we have a city employee can do it for $200? They can spend the day down there. Would that cover their?
You think 500 would cover most?
But then it's back and forth too, and I don't want to make
Yeah.
more work for accounting and make it non-workable.
How about if they put
I
money
wasn't sure
down,
on this
but
one.
they
I put
did
it as a
not-
question
It was
for
not, it was just
discussion.
held.
Maybe a recommendation, maybe we should just look and see what other people are charging for
Mhm.
deposits.
Yeah.
And let's not try to create something.
Yeah, I
there.
mean, I think
I don't even know if they are though.
I don't think they are. All the ones that I've read, I didn't see
I didn't
anything.
see anything. So do we just go?
Yeah,
meh?
I mean, I think
And we'll
this
go
is
with, we'll try and charge them afterwards and we can always send an
this is a
invoice.
solution in
And
charge
then
of a
you
problem.
always
at this
punish
point.
them the next year when they come back and you go, no, you can't have. a
Well, and it
permit."
says in there that you don't get it
Yeah,
get it
that's a good
issued.
idea, too.
And there's some that like I have just flat out denied because there's no way we had the resources. You can't do a fun run in middle of the 4th of July. Like a company wanted to do that. Like, sorry, the county's tapped, we're tapped. I can't have another event in middle that needs medical resources to boot in middle of the 4th of July.
All right, what other changes you got?
I got the 1.5. I got the 1.5. All of that was good.
On number 5 there, John, where it says town manager, did you?
We just
change
changed
We're changing that to
We
mayor.
changed
Okay,
that.
I didn't remember if y'all said that or not.
Mayor and commission chair.
Yeah,
So down at the very bottom down there where it has somebody from the city signing off, one of the town council, would that need to also be changed to the person's name? Or not the person's name, but as you said, the chair, I guess.
yeah, it could be. And I'm not saying that this application, I mean, we can dress that application
Yeah.
up to make it look nice. This was just,
I just figured y'all are approving stuff, so
yeah, I mean, if I was going to do it, I'd put our logo on it and
I think it looks
We'll
great.
do that.
I think you did a
Made it
great
look
job.
pretty
I
and-
appreciate your.
We'll do that after we
yeah.
Well, when
do
you
these
look at
changes.
this-
If you just, since you have it in your document,
Yeah.
if you shoot the changes over to me and then I'll send them to Ed.
Yeah.
And then it should be,
I should be able to get this done tomorrow.
and then should be good for our May meeting.
and
And then it
just-
would go into effect in June.
Yeah.
Which would be really great for that 4th of July season.
Just
And-
change
And then
the
it gets rid of,
definition on,
and then we'll have to, when we do
special
it,
event.
I think the
Any
fees,
gathering of 50 or more.
Yeah. You want another line in there that spells
I
that
just
out?
want attracted taken out.
Yeah, I've already got that. I've already got that. I got you covered on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then I think, I mean, the fees seemed reasonable.
I mean, yeah,
Yes.
the fees were just a guess, but
No, it's actually, I'm going through the time it takes.
yeah.
And that's where I was trying to say the fees should apply. Because if most of them we do within an hour between Eric, John, and I looking them over.
Yeah.
Ginger
And
sending some
some of
emails like, I
these-
need that liability to
Yeah.
change to this. Most of those are right within
Yeah.
an hour. So we're not losing anything on actually getting to
time,
review
yeah.
them. Street closures, that
That's different.
filming took forever, so I loved 100 because it did take more emails back and forth and coordination there. And that we could add additional if we needed to based on their specific needs, because it's not a one cut thing. If you need one street closed, not a big deal, but if you need a whole section of them, then yes, it's going to cost more because we need more resources. So
I just want to be clear on the approval sign off stuff. So we have mayor's approval, then we have the police department, then we have the city clerk, and then we have the town council approval.
and town council,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it says town council, and that's what I mentioned.
It says town
I mean, we
council.
could strike town council out of
Yeah.
Well,
there.
I'm thinking that we
Yeah.
do, and it's either
That's gonna put you
mayor's
close to your 30
approval
days.
or
Ma-
commission chair.
Commission
right?
chair, yeah.
yeah,
Get rid of
commission
those-
chair,
Get rid of
All
the.
right, strike.
Get rid of
fourth
town
one.
council approval.
approval sign-offs really, Eric has to look at it depending on the event. It's kind of hard there, if it's,
And I thought about that, but then I thought he would look at it when it was on the city clerk's desk and they would like
well,
coordinate.
we have it in here, don't we? Our things aren't matching off.
And typically
Review
these,
process,
these
as
are
long
in
as,
some semblance of order usually. So the most important signature should be the last signature, and you can't proceed to the next signature until each
one above.
The other one
subsequent
above
one
it,
has been signed.
yeah.
on our review process, we have Public Works. So I would say
Add Public Works.
it goes Public Works,
You want to add Public Works on there.
Police department,
PD, clerk,
clerk.
mayor / commission,
Yeah.
All right, say that again.
chair.
Public Works, then city clerk,
No,
or
PD.
PD, and then
And
the
then the
city
city
clerk.
clerk, because she's got to make sure she's got all the forms.
So say that again.
Okay.
Public Works.
Public Works,
Yep.
police department,
Police.
city clerk, then the mayor or commission
All right.
Sure.
chair.
All right. Got it.
And those have to be signed in order.
Okay.
Well,
Well, the
prefer-
mayor would, the
sometimes
mayor
they
would
see
not
what-
sign off
We'll just
before
kinda
the.
do
Yeah,
No.
exactly. I think,
They should be flipped that.
yeah, I think that's, once they turn this application in, it's an internal document, the police chief looks at it, goes, yeah, I like that, and hands it to the next person in line.
Right.
And yeah.
That's it.
and we always write on any of them. Like if somebody's got a concern,
Mhm.
A note.
so the applicant knows, or we address it before. So the form itself will do. We'll incorporate some of the old stuff into it.
Other than
The
that, John,
special
looks good.
notes, like you must do this
Yeah.
or else or whatever.
All right. I'll get these changes. I'll get them to you here shortly.
AI did a good job.
Yeah, that's good.
No, you did a very good job. But did you say you used AI to create it originally?
Use AI to
Yeah,
create
that's
everything.
great.
I do
Okay.
too.
You know?
AI is the best tool that was ever invented. It is. It's going to change the world.
Until it's not.
Yeah.
Until it figures out.
I've been working with
it
AI
can
since
control
2012,
humans.
before people even knew that it existed. It started as predictive behavior technology. And then it went to machine learning, and now it's AI. And it's very subjective, right? Because garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Just
You have
like
to be
we
very
know.
careful how you
You have
ask
to be
and what you
careful
ask.
what you.
Oh, and we found out that you have to, when you talk to it, you have to tell it, please do not hallucinate. Because AI will actually go out and create its own content and report it back to you as original content. So you have to tell it, do not hallucinate, don't make stuff up. Just give me what you can find.
I saw a lot of people roasted themselves with their Easter pictures. Did you see that? So
All right, are we there?
Easter
Yeah.
pictures and then you.
What
yeah,
else we got?
roast
Anything?
you.
That's it.
All right.
Motion.
Motion.
Adjourn.
Thank you. I second.
All right.
But yeah, so they roasted you, maybe it might be your 80s or whatever, talk about your hair or your clothing within taste, I guess.
Yeah. I'll add that to mine and I'll get this to you probably tomorrow afternoon. Yeah.
Ed's recommendation.
Yeah. I mean, Ed has a law degree. I don't. So, I mean, if he,
I knew he's gonna say that.
yeah.
I have, can I ask a question since we're out of thing, just asking y'all as people to know? The cannabis here in town, I noticed, I can't discuss anything. Y'all make it so
We're a
hard.
quorum
I
of
know.
things, people, of humans.
I know, but it's very hard. You have to wait a month before you can ask your husband or wife about a electric bill. It's kind of what it's like. All of us.
Yeah. One at a time.
I just want to know a law. That's all I wanted to know, or a rule or something like that.
On that topic, other than it's still illegal.
Yeah.
Federal wise.
Oh, no, this is about the income that comes into the city.
I can pull the number.
Well, we've only got one place I saw the other day. I saw it was like 3,300 and something, but it's already at 117 of the projected for through April the 25th. I was just wondering if it brings in a lot of money, is there a limit in the town? It's the town only allowed one. I know the county has a limit on how many dispensaries could be. That is another source of income. That's why I was wondering about that too, because there are several outside the city limits.
We don't get.
I know you
Right. 6 in the morning. So, yeah. So a couple things. maybe you can't solve them right now, maybe you can help.
Can there be more than
That one place you were supposed to put on my,
Not on numbers.
just pay the
On
damn water bill
distances
thing.
from-
I got another bill for that.
Yeah.
You mean? Oh, okay,
let me
go.
So the answer is
That's Ennis Street, 112. Yeah, you called me back, like when I was like getting my eyes in the book. And I saw it. Oh! Yeah, I know. I know. It's not, I'm not